Hello?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate you guys for taking out the time. I'm very excited about today's interview. It is with the SDP presidential candidate, that is Prince Adewole Adebayo. And right now, we have a number of people watching, but I'm just waiting a little bit to try to get more people to join us. We are right now live on Twitter, and we're live on YouTube, and we're live on Facebook. So hopefully you will be able to watch us from one of these avenues. And as usual, please guys, keep in mind that you will have the opportunity to ask him questions. You will have the opportunity to ask him questions. So please and please jot down your questions for him, and then once I'm done asking him a couple of questions, I will post the link for you guys to be able to join us in the studio. And when I post that link, you will be able to join us regardless of wherever you live. So please and please keep that in mind, because I would love for you guys to ask him questions. I don't want to be the only one asking him questions. So he's running for president. He wants to be the president of the country. So we should be able to all ask him questions, not just me. And I have, as I said on my show, he's actually the youngest candidate that we have right now, the youngest running candidate in this coming presidential election. He is 50. Um, and then the person that follows him is Omoyele Showore. So thank you so much, everybody that is joining us right now. Really, I appreciate you guys. So I believe that we have enough people right now. So I will be ushering in our guest for today, uh, Prince Adewole Adebayo. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure, Adiola, and the rest of the crew. Thank you very much, and fellow Nigerians. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So I'm just gonna, get started so that, because the beauty of this would be to have the viewers join in this conversation. I don't want it to be just me. So I'm just going to get started with my questions. And my very first question is definitely probably obvious already. I've watched a number of your interviews, and it's not just me. A number of people have watched your interviews on Channels TV, Arise News, on different platforms. You seems to give precise, concise answers. You seem to have a plan. You always state exactly what you're hoping to do if you become president. But but then, despite all that, it's like you're not one of the most popular candidates in this race. And so my very first question is, what's happening? How come, with all these great answers that you always give in your interviews, how come you're not as popular as some of the candidates? What's happening?
Well, the question is popular with who? Yeah, if you're popular with the mainstream media or popular with the grassroots. Uh, During the primaries in my party, I was the least covered of the aspirants, but I'm the one who is the candidate now. And I think that it's the nature of my approach to politics that I tend to do grassroots work and I tend to manage the budget and I try to do only things that are true, that have a foundation. So, and the question of popularity in an election can only be tested at the ballot. Until then, someone could have robots or simply bots tweeting on their behalf on social media. They could have interest groups hyping them all around. They could do many other things. But I think for someone like me, I think that the best thing to do is to fix one's eyes on the election day and keep working like someone who's preparing to be in government. And organize my party together and get people in my party to reach out to voters. One needs to be intelligent to know where the votes are. And while it might be true that if I had 500,000 people from my hometown going on the internet and making noise every day, I might loom large, but that will not help me in many parts of the country. So I think that one of the things we have to learn is to learn the fact that hard work pays, consistency pays. And if one keeps working without trying to cut corners and do shortcuts, at the right time, you have accumulation of your support base. And
So
that's what I'm trying to do.
thank you so much. You seem to downplay what I just said about popularity, and you're talking about how popular with who. It doesn't have to be what I say. Let me just read some of the comments that are coming in as you were talking. This one is coming from Dandy Eno Ogbe. He says, who be this one? He doesn't know you. This person says, this is Temitope Adela says, Oga, you are not popular. This person, Lola Odekunle, says, both mainstream and grassroots, we need to see you more in the mainstream. This person, Stephen Deberici, says, Adewole Adebayo, no ring bellu. And then this person, Obi Chidiebere, says, my first time of seeing this man. I don't know if any of this is ringing a bell because you made it sound like, oh, is popular with who, like it depends on who we're talking about. You see, Israel Opara says popularity wins election. That's why I was asking the question, because my second question would have been, what is it that you need to do that you're not doing for more people to know about you? But you seem to believe that you are popular, and I'm not saying you're not, but compared with other candidates is what I'm saying, because you have all these ideas, and I'm wondering, why is it that more people are not hearing about your ideas? Because from the comments that I just read to you, it looks like, especially the young people, there's a disconnect. They don't know you that well. So let me skip all of that, because I know you will still
Let me just clarify something so that we understand something.
clarify that, so you can clarify and go into my next question. My next question is for young people that don't know you before now, for people who are not familiar with your campaign so far. Um, is there something that you can tell us about you that will ring a bell with them? Like, I know your bio, I know a lot about you, but I'm saying there has to be, because for example, you claim to have created more jobs than anybody else in Nigeria, and we'll get to that. But I'm just saying, in terms of popularity, um, first of all, address this, and then maybe say something that will ring a bell in the minds of people that, this is who we're talking to.
Okay. Now, I respect the anecdotal evidence that you have on the screen of 5, 10, 500 people commenting. Uh, as a scientist, you know that the evidence, any person who is in the electorate who say doesn't know you, is a challenge. You want them to know you, but it doesn't mean that majority don't know you. That's number one. Number two is that campaign has not started. So uh, I'm not, I haven't campaigned for a day. I have not campaigned at all. What I'm doing is just responding to questions from the media. Uh, what I'm doing is paying courtesy call on dignitaries in places where I go to do party function. So we haven't started campaigning. So it's very rare to say you want to be popular before you start even the campaign. Then in an electoral system, popularity is, maybe I'm being technical about uh, the issue. For example, if you say some people are more famous than me, so it's just like me comparing myself to Michael Jackson, even though he's not on the ballot and is late, I can say he's more popular than me. or is more famous than me. But popularity means in election setting that you are more likely to get the vote of people than the other person, or your ideas more appealing. That's the way I'm looking at it, in case I got the context of your question wrong. But I admit the fact that other people who are in the race have more name recognition than I do have because I've not been in the public domain. For example, my very good friend, highly intelligent gentleman, Omoyele Sowore, has more name recognition than me for obvious reasons. And but that's not a question of popularity. That's what I'm making. A bottle of Coke has more name recognition than me, but I don't think the Nigerians will vote for a bottle of Coke, but they just recognize it more. So in terms of brand recognition, I admit that not many people know me as much as many of the other candidates, but it doesn't mean that those other candidates are more popular in the sense that they are more accepted. So many of them, when they are mentioned for criticism. People know them, but they know them for things that they are not impressed with. But anywhere they go, anything you post about them has instant recognition, but it could also have instant indignation. So I just want to not sound too academic on that. So three things I'm going to say to you. One, I admit the fact that I'm the new guy in town. Like you are showing up to a new school where nobody knows you. Yeah, you're the new kid in the block. Secondly, that I need to relate with people more. I need to be on more platform and forum to share my ideas. But three, that I'm not doing all of that aggressively because I have this habit of being in adherence to the law. So I try to not do anything that looks too promotional because the law says you cannot promote yourself at this point, but you can exchange views, you can go to places, and things like that. So I would imagine and I will plead with the electorate to keep an open mind and to see what we are doing in the coming months. And we see that the name recognition component of it will be dealt with summarily. And then whether people like the idea and whether the idea is popular, whether the personality of the candidate is popular with the people, I think just before Christmas, I think that's when bookmakers may start to stake their money as to whether this person is popular or not. But I'm going to do everything that needs to be done to introduce myself to the people. Uh, and so
Thank
that's
thank
that's
you so
that's my
much.
point.
You see, this is where I wanted us to start. Like I said, I believe you have great ideas. I've been watched a lot of your videos, and I wanted, I want more people to know about you, just like all other candidates. And so the reason I asked that question, it wasn't an attack. I just was surprised
No,
how
I didn't see it as an attack. I saw
many.
it as a point.
Thank you. I was like, how come a lot of people don't know about what you have going on? And then you said you were popular. So that's why I had to read those comments to you so you don't think that I'm making it up. And so now you answered the question in terms of the things that you will do to bring more awareness to get into the bigger space and let more people know about what you have in store. And so let's just go into that real quick. The first question would be, a lot of the people watching us are young people, okay, and they are wondering, why do you want to be president? What do you have to offer? And it's not like I want you to repeat things that you've said in other interviews, because I'm sure some of them have also seen your interviews. But so if I'm a young Nigerian and I vote for you, if I'm a young Nigerian and I'm trying to decide who to vote for, why should I vote for you? Why shouldn't I vote for Peter Obi, for example, or Tinubu, for example? Why should I cast my vote for you?
Okay. Now, number one, I would expect that whoever is voting, especially since you are dealing with young people, and that you know what a president is supposed to do. And if you know what a president is supposed to do, uh, it's like trying to make a dress with a tailor. You want to be sure that the tailor can make good dresses that fit well, that look well, that will last, well designed. And it's different from when you're trying to get someone um, to be your friend and you go on a date somewhere. On this occasion, you're looking for someone to make a dress. So if we understand why Nigeria needs a good president and what a good president would do, and the effect of what we are suffering from many years of not having a good one, then you would vote for me for the following reasons. One, our constitution is designed in such a way that it is impossible for the country to succeed and to make people happy and successful in their life without a good president. There are many countries in the world, if you study constitution, where they could vote anyone as president, and it will make no difference, not much difference in the life of the ordinary people. But in our case, our institutions are weak. So the executive powers of the federal government, which is where most of the powers in the country is located, has to be the head of state, just like the Queen of England, has to be the chief executive, like the President of the United States, has to be the commander in chief of the armed forces. So what it means is that whether the people of that country, Nigeria, which is a diverse country, are going to be united, are going to be friendly to one another, are going to be cooperative, are not going to hate one another and start to look at one another with hate and other hostility, depends on how that one person becomes the father or mother of the nation. And that is an area in which I have good experience because I know the diversity of the country. I have an understanding of how we journey from pre-colonial time to the colonial time to when we went to London to negotiate our independence, to the diversity of the various ethnic cities. And in all my work life, in all my association, I've been able to manage that very well. And I don't have any sentiment in favor of one against the other, whether ethno, religious, or otherwise. So that is, you might say, well, what does that matter? It does because that is uh, half of the tension that we have in this country, even under the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, and the incumbent president that we have now, this issue of ethnicity and religion and the region and all of that has been a major factor in whether a government gets the cooperation it needs from our national institutions, from sections of the country, and all of the rest of that. Secondly, you will notice around you that the people who are in government are not able to meet you at your point of need. They can't keep your schools open. They cannot run hospitals. They cannot get you electricity. They cannot let you post letters. You cannot get reasonable internet. You are struggling with every service that is rendered by governments in other countries. So you will need someone like me who understands that being in government is for service and has a good record of rendering services, of ensuring that projects work. The third thing you will need to consider is that despite many years of experience that many people have in government, despite many of them being quite wealthy at this time, they appear to be particularly dishonest and be they cannot show the level.
I'm sorry, I need to cut you off.
Yeah,
We know the problems already and their failures. I think it would be great if you like focus on your plans. So okay, let me help a little bit. For example, you said in an interview that you've created more jobs than all the other candidates running for president. Can you expatiate on that? In which sectors and in terms of job creation, for example, what can young people expect? Like, they already know all these problems and all the failures of the previous administrations. So we're trying to focus on you, like what you will do differently. So let's start with job creation. So in which sector, if you don't mind, have you created like more jobs than any other candidate? And in terms of numbers, how many jobs? And so that young people can have an idea what to expect if you become president. Also, if you guys that are watching, please click the thumbs up button so that more people can see this video and join us. So please and please, if you're watching this on YouTube especially, please click the thumbs up button so that YouTube can recommend this video for other people. So my father, let's talk about the job that you have created and what young people can look forward to if you should become president in terms of job creation.
Okay. For the sake of accuracy, first let me clarify the point that I raised these issues in order to show what I would do differently. But I don't take it for granted that everybody knows what is wrong with. I just try to lay that as a foundation. But what I'm going to do differently is that I'm doing opposite of exactly what they're doing. Now, on the issue of the premise of your question, with due respect, I think there is a misreporting or misunderstanding of the premise. I am saying what I said in one interview or two is that you were talking in terms of experience. And I said that I've created more jobs than President Buhari, Vice President Oshibaju, Secretary to Government Boss Mustafa, Chief of Staff Professor Gambari, and Speaker Gwajabi Amila, and Senate President Lawal. That's what I said. I wasn't referring to other candidates. There may be candidates who have created jobs somewhere. I wasn't talking about the candidates. I was trying to let the interviewer understand that the fact that I'm not in government, in an area where jobs are needed, the fact that I have created jobs much more than all the people whom you have been relying on for the past 7 years to create jobs for you, you should credit me with having more experience in job creation than all of them who are in government now. I hope you know the difference between the two. So I wasn't talking about the other candidates. There are many of them. I must obviously have created more jobs than, and there may be others who have created jobs too. So, but I was referring to the government in place now to show that though they have many years in government, but they have no experience in creating jobs for anyone. Actually, they have been employees who are being paid salaries by other people. So they don't know, they're not in the world of job creation. Now, the jobs that I'm going to create for the youth is in areas in which I already create jobs. For example, when I met with the US Black Chamber of Commerce, whom I've been a board advisor for some time, and they've seen me in various fields, going around the world, establishing enterprises, going to countries where members of the chamber go to do their business of job creation. I was able to come to an understanding with the members of the chambers that, for example, if we invest in agriculture, which is an area in which I have serious experience, I have a very large oil palm plantation in Agbede in Edo State, and I know the number of people in the community who work in the oil palm plantation. And I see the ease with which I've been able to train them from just being school leavers, some uh, housewives, some are other people laid off, some are even retirees from other salary jobs. I'm able to train them in the handling of oil palm. And you could see that from that oil palm plantation, hundreds of people get employed. So imagine if it wasn't just me as an individual having about 600 hectares of oil palm plantation in Agbede, Edo State, which is there. Imagine if it was a government, like it was the time of Okpara, when he was premier of Eastern Region. If it was a large plantation, the time that I see with my colleagues in Indonesia and Malaysia, you would see that you will be able to cultivate up to 50,000 hectares, 500,000 hectares of oil palm plantation, you will generate at least 9 million jobs from that. Then I also mentioned the fact that everyone can verify online that I have had a knack for generating green technology, green energy. And not only have I done that in terms of land, I do that in terms of floating solar, not the rest of it. And as I'm talking to you, if I was home, I would have taken you around, and one of these days you can come and see that on my own, I'm generating about 1.4 megawatt of green solar technology energy. And not only have I done that, I've trained over 2,000 young people who never knew anything about solar technology. Many of them are victims of ASU strike. I've trained them and for free, and they have been able to now understand that they can install solar panels, they can operate inverters, they can modify them, they can do hybrid system, they can do off-grid system. I've trained them in that respect. You also know that there is hardly now any major TV station or radio station in Nigeria that you will not find people that are trained in Captain TV. And even the federal government, on many occasions, has given me Employer of the Year award uh, by the federal government, even though I don't think they like my face that much, but they've been able to give me Employer of the Year. And I believe that in the area of technology and entertainment, you will be able to generate a lot of electricity, employment for people. If you look at my investment in animal farming, there is no animal. I mean, the only animals I don't farm are humans. But any other animal, whether it's snail, whether it's fishery, whether it's um, chickens, dogs, whatever, and I can see that I've been able to demonstrate that it is possible for you. In fact, I grow bees. People come to my compound, work on tiptoe, not to annoy the bees, but I generate a lot of honey from it. So I believe that with this experience and training a lot of people in this sector, and then in terms of basic engineering, road maintenance, a few other things, which we call public works. I don't know. When I was very little, there used to be something called the public works department, which you used to have in every city, and they used to train young people once you finish primary school or secondary school. Before you go to school, you go to the public works department. They will train you on how to patch potholes and all of that. People get paid for that. And if you go to those cities now, you will see that there's always a continuous effort by me putting young people on the road, learning how to patch roads. Many people have been trained on simple civil works. So you do that. These are the areas where you create a job. And I'm one of the most intensive promoter of technology in terms of cryptocurrency, in terms of blockchain generally. And you have many references. Dinis is one of the well-known um, um, experts in this sector, and they have partnership with me in many areas. And if you look at my investment in medical care, in medical research, you can talk to, if you Google it, you will see many pharmaceutical pharmacists, pharmacologists, pharmaceutics, pharmacognosis, many organizations coming to you to acknowledge my investment in development of drugs, research into the use of plants to make medicine, and so many other areas. And in terms of net neutrality, you will travel far to find a private person that has uh, made a lot of contribution like I've made in terms of zero emission, in terms of net neutrality. I have planted over uh, 500,000 trees, and I have a program where young people go and plant trees. Not only that, most of what I use, when you come to my compound, you will see tricycle that uses solar panel. You will see buses that use solar power. You see electricity with solar power. You see so many things. So I believe that in this new area of technology, That is the area in which I have requisite experience. I don't need anyone to lecture me in this area. And you can use this to generate employment, to do technology transfer, to also use it to abolish poverty. And in the area of housing, well, you can ask around. I'm quite well known for my ability to build houses, to do housing schemes, and to do all of that. So I believe that with all of these experiences combined, this is where the jobs will come from. Apart from the expansion of social services, investment in for example, healthcare, uh, adult care, special needs care, therapies. If you look at Nigeria today, if you train 10,000 physiotherapists a year, they will be absorbed locally. A lot of Nigerians suffer from stroke, some other psychomotor disabilities, and they can't get. You go to any hospital in your hometown. When else you go to your hometown, just ask a medical director there that you have an auntie or uncle or yourself, or somebody you know who needs a physiotherapist. You don't have them, but these are the areas where. So these jobs are not going to come from someone giving you a letter to a ministry to say go and see the managing director or the executive secretary. No, they're going to come from a government expansion of activities in areas in which I have requisite internationally certifiable experience. Uh, that's what I'm talking about.
Wow. Thank you so much. To be honest with you, all this sound very impressive. So you have talked about creating jobs in agriculture, in health sector, in renewable energy, and so on. All together, do you have an idea like how many jobs altogether? Can you give a number, like an estimate or something, in terms of the number of people that you have employed?
Number of people I've employed altogether, they're in thousands. I'm not even talking of people I employ as a lawyer who have grown up to employ other people. I'm talking of people who work now on the farm, who work in construction. They are in thousands. So that's in fact, and most of them are youths.
Like how many thousands are we talking about?
Cumulatively over time or at one time.
Like right now, like how many?
Right now, the people who work with us will be over 3,000 at this point.
Over 3,000 people.
Yes. Yes.
So to be honest with you, this is very impressive. If all citizens who are able can do what you're doing with all that you listed, I think Nigeria would be way better off than where we are right now, regardless of whether or not you are running for office. So that is quite impressive. So, but if we go by what you said earlier, so um, I have one more question and then I will let the people in. But before I ask that one question, so are you insinuating that the Buhari's administration has not created up to 3,000 jobs? Because you said you have employed more people than Buhari, and I just want to be clear on that.
Okay, let's unpack two things. I'm not counting all the people I've employed in the entirety in this discussion because you asked the last question you asked was specifically current employees. But over time, I've employed thousands of people, apart from the charity side of me, which is given
Um,
thousands of scholarships. So now,
Giving numbers helps. So over time, you've employed like 10, 20,000, just to have an
far
idea,
more than that, far more than that, for God's sake,
more than 20,000.
far more than that. So that's far more. But let me explain something. The Buhari administration has not, Buhari himself said it openly by himself
Okay.
on NTA, Arise TV, or any of those places where he managed to come out to speak one time. He said that there's no job for anyone. He has no job for anyone. And he has asked governors, and they have no job for anyone. Remember that there was a time that Festus Kiyamo, junior minister for labor, came up with a plan to employ 1,000 people per local government, temporary jobs. Even that, they are struggling with it. You remember he had a big fallout with National Assembly people, with them screaming at each other in the council chamber or in the National Assembly chamber. But the point I was making is that They, as individuals, because the question was relating to experience, and I said, let me pick one area where you need to know the meaning of experience. Experience doesn't mean sitting in government and doing nothing. That they, as individuals, when President Buhari was a young man, he was put in boarding school, he finished, he joined the army. So in his ADC, his food, everyone was employed for him. He's never had to employ people, worry about how to pay them. So that's the benchmark I use, that they individually have no job creation experience before they came to power and since they have been there. So when you are asking someone like me, when we are talking in terms of employment or job creation, and you're asking someone like me that what is my experience, then I'm allowed to ask you, the people who are there now, who are in charge, and you have been coping and living under them, they have no experience in employment creation, but I do. So you should credit me with having more experience than all of them combined, because I have demonstrable proof of employing people.
I
That is the
I
point I'm
did.
making.
I talked about how impressive it is, all the jobs that you said you have created. I did. I said it's very impressive. And I said that if regular citizens who are able can do what you're doing, that Nigeria would be better off. So I did that already. I already
No,
commended.
I wasn't referring to you. I was
Oh,
referring to the person asking me the question at that time. I was
oh,
telling the person asking me that question that when you are discussing experience, don't count tenure as experience, because you can have an 8-year tenure and you have no experience. And I went further on that occasion that if someone has been a minister of power for the past 8 years in Nigeria, they are experienced in darkness. They're not experienced in electricity. And I compare that with my private experience, whereby not only have I taken myself out of these blackouts and darkness and all of the electricity problem, I've helped many communities and countries to escape that, and I've also recommended to the current government in Nigeria. I have documented proof where I show to them that since you have been blowing all this money on procurement, you have not been able to generate electricity. But I, just give me a year, I will give you 10,000 megawatts of electricity. And I show it to them. They didn't take it. And I also reference the fact that in September, about September 2001, which makes it like 21 years ago, I attended National Council on Power during Obasanjo's time. And I explained to them, and I mentioned the name of all those who were present, some of them are alive still, that I predicted to them that they will not be able to generate any electricity. They will waste all of their money. And I gave them a method that they're going to use to be able to generate electricity. So when I come now and I say to you, in 2 years, I will generate enough electricity to make rural communities and low consumers to not worry about what happens to the integrated power project. People say, how is it possible? So that's the point I'm making. Just the same way when people say President Buhari is a retired major general and is being whooped by Boko Haram and is running away from them, is hiding in the villa, how are you, a civilian, going to be able to defeat Boko Haram in about 100 days? So I'm able to show to you that they're not doing it. It's not that the job is difficult to do, it's just that you won't do it. It's not hard to brush your teeth, but if you put the toothbrush in your ears, your teeth will not be clean. It's not that it's difficult to brush your teeth.
awesome. Creating jobs is as easy as, brushing your teeth, some people would argue. So I'm going to ask my last question, which is about security. And if you're watching us and you'd like to ask him a question, I will be posting a link in the description as he's rounding up his answer on security in Nigeria. So as he's rounding up, I will be posting a link. Please and please click that link Once you click that link, you would be let into the studio. Even if you don't see yourself on the main screen, don't get out of the studio, because I will be letting you in one by one. So please look out for that link, as is answering my last question about insecurity. So when it comes to security issues, sir, it's something that everybody is feeling the impact. It's whether you live in northern Nigeria or you live in the south, it has become a national issue. And a lot of people, especially that have lost loved ones or people who have been victims themselves, and they're watching this, what do you have to say to them that if you become president, what would be different and what would you do?
There are 5 things I'm going to do. One, I have a clear understanding, unlike the government that is there now. I have a clear understanding of where you have space of insecurity, who are behind the insecurity, what constitutes the insecurity and makes it happen, why it is happening, and how to end it. So one needs to know. And it's important when you talk in terms of security that you need to know what's going on. That is what is called in security terms appreciation of the situation. It's not every situation that you understand that you have a cure for, but you know that you are halfway there if you do understand. And why am I mentioning that the first step is to understand is that the president that is there now and the president that was there before him have shown that the former one did not understand why, where, who behind the insecurity. The president who is there now has demonstrated openly by himself on many occasions that he too doesn't know. So what you don't know, it's difficult to admit that you don't know it and you need to leave and let someone deal with it or seek for help, but they don't know. So with me, at least you achieve one thing. Even before I'm elected, I know. So I know the problem. So I'm not going to argue with people about herdsmen, this and that, arrest Igboho, run after somebody. I know the causes of these things. I know
What's
where
the,
they come
what's
from.
the problem? What's the cause?
The cause, there are 4 causes of insecurity in Nigeria. One is that the government is not managing security assets very well. And when you don't manage security assets very well, you create what you call sub-optimization. So people, because to be secure, you need a component of organization. So you cannot abolish the police, for example, and rely on the army. You cannot abolish the DSS and rely on the DMI. So you want each person or each institution to handle different aspects. Now, because you need coordination, and if you study the US, you study the UK, study many countries, the leader provides the coordination, and the coordination is done so delicately to see that these agencies don't work against one another. In Nigeria, under the previous government, more particularly under this government, the coordination has been badly managed. And I've made a lot of comments on that one. So the security organizations are working against one another much more than they're working with each other. In fact, on many occasions, some of them cooperate with the criminals and the bandits and against their own organization. I can show you many instances. Some of the leaders even complain that, for example, there was a time the EFCC said we were looking for a particular person and it was being protected by the DSS. And there were dagger drones, guns. Yeah. So it's not every day they're going to come out pointing guns at each other, but every day they undermine one another. And it's for the leader, National Security Advisor, the president, to get these things together. And I know how to get that together. And some of the fights has to do with personal hatred, some have to do with ethnicity, seeping into it. Some has to do with disgruntled underlings trying to say the person you put on top of us is not of merit, it's of nepotism. So we are going to make him fail so you can know that you made the wrong choice. Some of which is fighting over money, and the money is increasing every day. And the more the money increases, the more they create tension for them. And then there's the rogue element, whereby because people who are taking enormous risks, who are expected to take serious responsibility, feel like they rather make money out of it, because if they should suffer any loss or impairment or fatality, the system is not going to take care of them. So they work together. So you would see that in a situation of kidnapping, some security person might feel like, why don't I just cooperate with the kidnapper and we share the money? Why do I have to waste my time, catching him and all of that? So that is there. Second element that is there is that in our environment, there are some geostrategic threats that we have. So when you hear that there is a coup d'etat in Ouagadougou, there is they killed Gaddafi in Libya. There are some Tuaregs fighting people all around. They shot the president of Chad in the back. And all that. You should be careful, because a lot of the movement of these rebels or fighters, they come to your territory. And on many occasions, they come to Nigeria to recruit people and to raise money. So if you can come to the forest of a country and you can kidnap 30 people and collect 50 million, 100 million, you can use that money to buy more ammunition and go to your country to continue the fight. So we need to manage that. That was why in the 90s, when trouble started in Liberia, it was spilling over to Sierra Leone. Nigeria knew that we needed to go there. Otherwise, we will see that even Ghana was already feeling it. Cote d'Ivoire was already feeling it. Babangida and the rest of the people in the military at that time realized that if we didn't step in, it was a matter of time before they would be coming to Nigeria to do things. So that is important. The third component of it is that you need to manage intelligence. And that is the most important thing in government. Showing power, carrying guns, putting policemen and soldiers in hillocks and making us all over the city is not how to handle security issue. And you will see that you will have heard that, because I know you hear a lot of things, you must have heard that when Kuje prison was attacked, the president said he was shocked, he was surprised. How could this happen? But he was the only one shocked, because even pepper sellers around Kuje prison noticed that weeks, days before then, the place was tense, people were not showing up, people were getting worried. And if you listen to chatter on telephone and all those places, you will know that people knew. So, and the security agencies, who are usually very mute in this kind of situation, were able to say, we've given you 42, 44 briefs. So if you haven't read them, it's not our fault, because we're giving these things to you. So these things are there. And then lastly, there's regime instability in Nigeria. And the regime instability is related to our politics. There is this massive investment that politicians make people to make when they want to win power. They spend money like Nigeria's USA. You will see that in an election season, election spending constitutes a large chunk of our GDP. And these monies are coming through people. So as a result, too many stakeholders follow these regimes, and they need to be compensated. They need to be given trade ministry so that they can bring their underling to be writing trade policy for them, to be giving them waivers. They need to put people in strategic places where there is money. And when these things don't get done, these people have enough resources and energy to undermine the system. So they will invest money in promoting divisive and incendiary agitators. So a good politics will repair some of it, and that's what we're trying to do, to make sure that we don't have to come to Eagle Square and say, I belong to nobody, I belong to nobody, and all of that. That you are able to manage from the beginning, that you run a people-based government campaign, a lean campaign, you manage it, and people are not going to feel cheated. People are not going to say, it's my turn. And if you listen to them when they have their occasional fight, which is becoming more regular these days, You will see them recounting how I gave the billions, how I made him happen, and it's now his turn to do it for me. So uh, these things that have been expressed over the years have been used to undermine regime. That's why you see that the government tends to worry about its own stability. Why is that important? It's important because when 60, 70% of the talent, energy, time, and skill of security agencies are used to secure the regime, to protect the president, to protect it. They don't have enough time to do regular security work. That's why you see that a typical person going who's in government has like 34 mobile policemen or gun toting all around. But if you go to other countries, you will see that a politician can go around maybe with one policeman in Mufti or none at all. So we need to uh, create an atmosphere where our politics does not create insecurity in the country. So those are the factors. Of course, there are some externalities, but those externalities are not that significant for a regular country. Imagine you are in the USA, I believe you are in somewhere in North America. Canada has to worry about the US. Forget about the fact that they are both smiling, but you know that you have to manage a situation where the Yankees don't want to kill you. So they worry about that, and they have the Russians on the other side. You see the situation in Ukraine, where a cowboy is jumping all over the place, and you know the importance of that. So Nigeria doesn't have any bully around us. So what we have now is the same thing you will find in Texas, in the lower parts of America, of the USA, where you have bandits, killers, and all sorts of people, narcotics, and all of those people trying to come. But because the FBI is well trained, the U.S. border protection is well trained, they sometimes they face 50 times more firepower than you are facing with Boko Haram. So the relative uh, threat that Boko Haram is constituting is based on the fact that the level of deterrence, the level of monitoring, the level of occupying spaces in Nigeria has become very weak. So as a result of that, a bunch of hunters, a bunch of Kalamazoos can just go to any forest and they can maintain the forest and stay there. But when actions are taken, you will see that they're easily wiped out. It's just because we have a lot of ungoverned spaces in the country. In fact, one of the things I'm going to do immediately we get in is to relocate the military barracks. If you go to Abuja, the shortest part of the town is where you have the military guys staying like housewives. So, and we have forests all over unoccupied. So look at Lagos. What is Bonny Camp doing on Victoria Island next to a movie theater? So they were just there temporarily after the Nigerian Civil War. They were the camp in Bonny. They were part of the 3rd Marine Commando, and they were brought to Bonny Camp. They were to be kept there for a while. They are there forever. What is Abati Barracks doing in Surulere? So those ones should be moved because the country has changed, population has increased, the town planning has changed. So usually go all over. I believe you have lived many years in New York. When last did you see a military barrack inside New York City? It doesn't happen. So those are the changes we need to make. So Sambisa Forest, many years ago, was meant to be occupied by the Nigerian military. And Goza Hills used to be where Sunday Adewusi started training the mobile police force. And it used to be a pride in those days. They would wear the T-shirt saying, I've survived Goza Hill. That Goza Hill now is where people are running away from. So those are the changes that I need to make. And you will see that a lot of the ungoverned spaces will be governed. Nigeria Army is very strong. I have no concern about that. It's just that the government is very weak.
Thank you so much, sir. So I know that you were mentioning four reasons or sources of insecurity, four things that are behind insecurity in Nigeria, and then you were also talking about the five things that you would do. Did you go over all of them
Yes,
today?
I believe so. If there's anyone that is missing,
Okay.
you can let me know. But basically, what so once you do that, then you deal with the area of morale. The major thing I've talked to many troops. The commander-in-chief of recent hasn't been commanding them and hasn't been dealing with them. And it is not for nothing that you find commanders-in-chief in other countries come and talk to the troops, relate with them, enter the situation. There's a nice situation room in the State House Villa in Abuja, fantastic situation room. But I don't think that soldiers get calls from there to see that the commander-in-chief is following the operation. So those are all the things you can do in terms of morale. And of course, in terms of the police itself, you see, we believe that we can have security by having Nigerian police as a joke and having the army interfere in things which the police SWAT team is supposed to do. And it came from the military time. I think they didn't want a very strong police force. But now we're in civilian time, we should be able to equip the police force very well. But what we must do in addition, which I suspect is one of the reasons why they're not doing it, is that you cannot sit at the top and be creaming off all the money meant for the police without taking care of the police barracks, without having police staff school where the policemen can put their children, without having police clinics where they can actually take their family and themselves to for treatment. You cannot have a situation where a policeman has to borrow money to buy a uniform. You have to deal with that, and you have to make sure that they can actually have rations supplied to them. That's why you see them on the highway begging you for money and praying for you. I have received more prayers from policemen than all the bishops I've ever met in my life. So why? Because they need to stand there. If they can't harass you, they start to pray and do clown and do whatever to get something. If you don't deal with that, then we're not going to be able to deal with insecurity, because ad hoc dealing with security is not what we need. We have killed the criminal investigation department because many of the laboratories that they need to have, there is a general unwillingness for the government that is there now and the one before it to actually spend money in the areas where they are required. Once they appropriate money, they just put it in the pocket. Because to spend this money on little things, police buying reagent, testing kits, God forbid, if you have a fingerprint situation, you cannot, in a whole state, you may not have police being able to do analysis of fingerprint. And all the data that we are collecting from BVN, from NIN, and from National ID card, from all sorts of things, there are no laboratories doing analysis. You can commit the worst crime on using your phone. A kidnapper even still uses his phone to collect and confirm the bank alert and all of those things. So if you look at intercept investment, look at all those things, I think those are the things that I will bring into it, and you will see that they will have more security when crime is very costly. I can tell you some personal experiences, but I don't want to put my life into the discussion. But one of the things I can tell you is that there was a time I had a kidnap situation on my farm. I had expatriates from overseas working on my farm, and they got kidnapped. And I can tell you, there's only one policeman that performed according to how he should perform. But I saw the others, and I realized that they didn't even know the meaning of the situation. They were treating the case of the kidnap of these expatriates as if I was complaining to them that somebody stole my yam on the farm. So beyond writing statement and try to collect money to write statement, they had nothing to do. I had to take extraordinary steps to be able to do interception, to trace these people, to locate them. I had to go to the police to say, look at the picture of the people who kidnapped my employees. I've got the picture. See, this is where they were. So these are basic things that a regular police station should be able to do. But they were not able to do it. I had to help them do it. And then they even had difficulty understanding it. It was only Abakari, who is now has fallen into terrible times, that appeared to understand a bit of what I was saying at that time. So basically, what I'm saying is that these things that Nigerians are depressed about, they are not serious problems for a serious government. But one of the analysis that I give, and to let you know that these solutions I have are not just solutions theoretical solutions. You know why government cannot do most of these things is that they can't do even easy things that you can do by yourself. The government is not able to keep the street clean. They can't get the traffic warden to be at the junction to pass traffic. They cannot keep a school open. There's nothing complicated in keeping universities open, for example. You just have to pay the teachers and leave them alone. But they can't do it. So you can't post a letter to anybody in Nigeria. So it's not complicated to post letters. You just have to have a postman who takes these letters and they sort them out and then they put them in a delivery vehicle or bicycle or whatever, and they trace the addresses and deliver the letters. But they couldn't do it. And there's no country in the world that I've been to that cannot do it. People write letters in Afghanistan and they get delivered in Tora Bora. So why is it that you cannot deliver letters in Nigeria? So from these basic things, that you get a letter from a ministry written to you, signed by the minister, and you check the letter headed paper, and you take the telephone number written on top of it, and you try to call it, it's the wrong number. So with that basic thing, you go to a ministry and the symbol falls off, and nobody remembers to put the letter there. So I've been to the village, I've seen in the state house, I've seen lights not coming on. So things like that. So what I'm raising all of these issues is not for the tragicomedy of it, it's to let you know that a government that has so disorganized itself that it cannot do simple things that housewives do successfully every day. How then are you surprised that they cannot do things that require 6, 7 steps to be repeated 7 times a day, 364 times a year? That is why I come to the conclusion that you may have incumbents occupying various offices, but they are not performing their governmental function. Therefore, these jobs, these tasks are not hard to do. Any reasonable person who has a good understanding of them can go there and perform these functions, and you'll be all right.
Thank you so much, so much for all these explanations. Really appreciate it. So we have about 12 people in the studio, and I'm gonna start letting them in one by one to ask their questions. But before I do that, I want to start with a disclaimer. Please and please and please be nice. And the reason I'm saying this is I'm looking at the comments as you have been talking. There are some people who have made up their mind in terms of who they want to vote for. But then there are people who are trying to get familiar with all the candidates so that they can make informed decision in terms of who they want to vote for. The fact that you have made up your mind that this is who you want to vote for, that doesn't mean that you should prevent people from, listening to other candidates in order to know what their manifesto will be. And it doesn't mean that you have to trash another candidate just because you have made up your own mind in terms of who you're voting for. So some people have not been nice in the comment section. That's why I'm saying this. So please don't come here when I let people in and start saying, things that are not nice. So I just feel like I need to say that. And going by the comments, I'm going to read some comments. This is from Adebayo Glover. He says, Adewole, don't tire for you now comment. Well, I don't know how he could tell that I was reading comments, but no, I wasn't tired. But the next comment that I will read is from Echezona Azubike said, Adela, don't tire. See her hand on her cheek. Actually, I'm not tired. I was listening to what he's saying. I'm trying to listen to know what he's trying to offer if he should become president. Now, the reason I said all that is because of the next comments that I would read. This person, if Hago Vincent, for example, said, I have 3 candidates now for mine: Showore, Peter Obi, and this man. So there are people out there who are still trying to decide who they want to vote for. So please and please don't write off any candidate just because you have made up your mind. Tunde Akinyo Soye said, this gentleman is well-spoken and he appears very knowledgeable. Unfortunately, I have only become aware of him through this live session. So there are people who are just getting to know him and, maybe they are still making up their mind. And the last comment I'm reading is from ITs. And he says, wow, this man has brain, I swear. And the only reason I'm saying all this is not to patronize our guests. I don't patronize people. I'm just saying that be open-minded. Even if you have made up your mind in terms of who you're voting for, just hear him out. We're trying to hear out everybody as much as possible. Now, having said all that, I'm going to start letting people in. If you try to get in and you couldn't, it's because the studio is full for now. As other people are leaving, you can keep trying, and then maybe you'll be able to get in. The first person that I have is Peter Ugu. If you don't mind turning on your camera and your audio so that you can ask your question. Peter, please tell us where you're calling from and what your question is. The next person is Nadi Jones, followed by Joy, Daniel Abe Ehimare, then Rudolph Okonko, Kayode, and so on and so forth. So Peter Ugu, please tell us where
Hello,
you're
Adiola.
from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
please turn
you
on
for.
your camera. We can't see you.
Sorry, and Nigeria just happened. NEPA took light,
No,
so
no light.
yeah.
Okay.
So
All
I'm
right.
calling
Please
from
go ahead
Abuja.
with your question. Okay.
I'm connecting from Abuja, and I want to say thank you for bringing the people we'll be hiring to take up Nigeria's leadership. Thank you for bringing them for us to talk with. And thank you, Mr. Prince. I see you have a lot. In fact, you've talked a lot, and I see you are well vested. You know a lot of areas, renewable energy. You can solve the energy problem, education, and a lot of things. The number of people you've helped, I think you've done a lot. So, but I still think that you still have to do more in making us get to know you. Then for this, the second thing I want to ask is the number of places where the places where you've worked previously. We'd like to know the exact names of companies. We want to know the people that have worked under you. We want to know your leadership style, to see how you delegate, to see how people work very well with you in these places. Because we understand that you've not been in politics and you don't have like experience in leading maybe like a senatorial region or a state or something like that. So want to see, I want to know how people you've worked with before. I want to see how you work together with those people, because it will give us a peek into how we can trust. Because now Nigeria is so sensitive that we don't want to make that mistake of trying out somebody. We're at a very direct situation where we cannot do that. Then the third thing I would like to know is, would you consider, if you check the numbers and see it may make sense for you to do a coalition with some other people that are trying to rescue Nigeria too, that the numbers suggest that they have more people. For example, someone like Peter Obi, would you consider, is there a possibility that at some point you may want to consider working with like-minded people so that people can solve this problem together as a team? Because what we need is a team, not really who does it, but all of us doing it. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead with the response. He asked his
oh,
question.
yeah, okay. Now, um, if you go online, you'll see my bio, especially this year when I had my 50th birthday. You will see people who have worked with me in Australia, in the US, in the UK, in Nigeria. You will see some introduction of me as founder of Captain TV. You will see Sci Pharmaceuticals. You will see my Agbede Agric Farms and so many other places. You will see that I've been on the board of many operations in the US, in the UK, here, and many of them. And you will see people who have worked with me. You will notice that when I went to the Nigerian Bar Association conference in Lagos, I was able to stand in front of the lawyers and say to them that, you know me, I practice with many of them. I've employed so many people. So I believe that media in this country should ask people who have worked with me, and thousands of people have worked with me. I don't, I think, have a problem of diversity, of working with different people. I've managed projects. I mentioned solar projects I have managed. I've managed projects in many countries in the world. Thailand is countless. So that is not a problem for me with respect to um, people who have worked with me and our ability to work with people. Well, I don't want to be praising myself, fall into the trap of politicians praising themselves, but I believe that it's left for other people to ask people, have you worked with this person before? What kind of person is he? And all the rest of it. But when the campaign starts, which hasn't started, I believe that many people will volunteer to show to you how they have worked with me and the rest of it. But we are not campaigning now. And some of the questions people ask, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? People forget that anything that looks like you are canvassing for votes, you're promoting yourself, it might be borderline, if not outrightly illegal. Now, with respect to government experience, you will see from the letters from various governments on my birthday, you know, I've worked with government people. In fact, many of the things you see in government are done by government consultants. Government people can't do anything. So if you say, can't do much. If you say that the government has built railway, it is the private sector people who actually construct the railway for them. If you say that the government has built roads, you will find that it's usually private people who do the roads for them. So I've been a consultant to many governments. I've given advice to many governments. I've done many projects. So I understand what goes on in government in Nigeria, in Europe, in America, in Asia, in Australia. So, and if you just do a lot of Googling and things, you will find many places in which I've done power management, project management, and all of that. So, when you are a senator, I'm not saying it's not good to be a senator, representing some constituency somewhere, and they say you are being government, you don't have executive functions. You don't have exposure, except you have them privately in your life, or you are curious. So it doesn't mean that being in government, you are a commissioner in one state, commissioner of special duty, commissioner of power or something, that you have all these experiences. But for someone who has worked with automobile companies here and in Europe, banking, raising finance worth billions of dollars for clients, asset management, who has worked on farm projects, has built up to islands in many countries as a lawyer to these groups. So I have experience in the energy management, in oil sector. So if you go to a company like Costa Tech, many other companies that are my clients, I'm not supposed to mention one client and not mention the other. Some clients want to mention in political setting, but you will see that you have a multiplicity of experiences. Even the Nigerian government, there is no president that will say, they have not had occasion to meet with me for one advisory thing or the other. So they know that I know these things. So that's not an issue. I just referenced that as far back as 2001, I was able to predict to the entire Ministry of Power and Steel and NEPA and all of them that they were not going to succeed based on how they've approached the project. So when it comes to peacekeeping, one of that, I've had experience in security. I was the United Nations and ECOWAS appointed commissioner in Liberia to settle them after the war. So I've done so many things. So it's not that government people, with due respect to some of them that are actually hardworking, they just go there and sit down for the most part and fight over money and privileges because they don't manage projects. So you imagine, look at the year that we built Data 4 at Ughelli. How many stations have we built since that time? Look at the time we built Egbin Power Station by Marubeni. How many years? When the Obasanjo government tried to get Marubeni to come and build power station, I was the one who told them, Marubeni has stopped building that kind of power station. They don't even know how to get you the spare parts. They can't help you. And try to help them locate companies that do this kind of backward integration. So it is basically what Nigeria needs is experience on the private sector, how you can actually interrogate the person and ask them to demonstrate practical experiences. That's how you do it. So now, when it comes to collaboration, let us be careful. Let us be very careful. All candidates don't believe in the same thing. So there are some people, rather than collaborate with them, I'll go to my house and lie down in prayers for Nigeria. Because escorting people to power and later coming back to say I made a mistake of my life is not the kind of thing I want to do. In 2015, when they were jumping all over the place, say Buhari, I was one of the few. asking people, say what? You're going to cry. This person, with due respect, can rule now. So just forget about it. The issues are beyond him and he can't do it. Now people are also jumping up and down. I think the nature of politics is that you must make a lot of noise, promote yourself, and try to create a sense of inevitability. But for those who use scientific method like me, I realize that it's all that noise. You can get 80,000 people making noise online, and they look like there are 8 million people. But in reality, if you work systematically, and if a person wants to be president, you must know demography, you must know statistics, you must know econometrics, you must know operational research, you must be able to visualize and analyze. And when I look at the analytics, I remember that I now know that all of us combined who are in the presidential race have not been able to do 7% penetration of the populace. I'm doing simultaneous operations from Jakosko in Yobe State up to Pablo in Cross River, up to Eche in Rivers. Everywhere I do it, I get up to Yewa in Kebbi. I put all of this together and I get the analytics. I go to places. There are places I've been in this country, and I'm virtually the only presidential candidate they have seen in recent times. So people are making noise all over the place, but it's part of what you will face if you're in government. You don't let people fool you with statistics and all of that. You settle down, collect intelligence, collect evidence. But I'm not a ridiculous person. Where I see from scientifically proven methods that the message that I have, whether it's the best in the world or not, are not having traction with the people, I'll be the first to say so. Even at that time, if I'm yielding to anybody, it will be someone that I don't later come back and say, I regret working with this person. And from what I see now, I'd rather have a dentist remove all my teeth without anesthesia than work with APC or PDP. It is impossible because that is suicide for myself and the country. That's one is out of it. I'd rather go back to my law practice and clear my conscience. Then, with respect to the other candidates in the race, I'm profiling them. Some of them are terrible liars. Some of them are showing some bad character. And I believe that character matters more than knowledge. If you are looking for people who know mathematics, who know engineering, who know law, Nigeria is not short. But when you are inside that office and there are a lot of opportunities available for you to make bad judgments, the fact that you are a practiced liar, you are deceptive, you are evasive, it's all of that. You're aggressively defensive of your lies, sort of saying, yes, I lied, I'm sorry. So those things are not attributes of people whom I want to associate with, whatever may be the merits of their case. Then there are other people who I believe that may have some non-nationalistic tendencies. If someone doesn't believe in one Nigeria, for example, someone has ethnic bias, religious bias, someone is not patient with the people, I might not work with the person. But underneath, we are talking to one another. Underneath, we are talking to one another, and somehow we work out.
We have so many people trying to ask you questions. You've given
Thank you
all
so much.
your attention to Peter. Peter, who was the only person that got to ask you a question.
Thank you so much.
Moving forward, sir, let's keep it short and sweet because there are so many people that want to ask you questions. Like you can just make this question sharp. No, I won't work with people, or I will work with people. You don't need
okay. All right. I'll make it short, but I can't promise sweet.
As many people. Peter, I'm very happy for you because you got the man. And Nadi Jones, you're next. For those who were asking, by the way, in the comment section, maybe you didn't join us at the beginning. He is a lawyer. He's also an entrepreneur, and he's a politician. So he wears many hats. For those who are asking in the comment section, what does he do? So that's why he keeps saying as a lawyer. So he's a trained lawyer. So and he's also an entrepreneur and he's also a politician. If I'm leaving out other titles, my father, you can tell them. So Miss Nadi Jones, tell us. Nice to see you. Tell us where you're calling from. Go straight to your question. And my father, you have 1 minute to answer her question. Please keep that in mind.
Yes, and I just want to say, Adewole, it's so nice to see you again. Oh my God, I love you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love you
And
too.
again,
Thank you.
hi Prince, and I'm so sorry. Hi Uncle Prince. Yes, and if you become president, and because like Nigeria is owing lot of debt, so how will you be able to pay those debt?
It's very simple. Nigeria is owing debt, but the debt they are using the debt to frighten people. All the debts don't mature at the same time. Some of the debts are fake. I can easily know those ones out. They're just fake debts. Some of the debts are internal debts. They are debts owed within Nigeria. Sometimes the Nigerian government puts its money in the bank and borrows money from the same bank again. So some of them are just book entries to deceive people. But why is the debt a problem? The debt is a problem because they are just opposing the debt with revenue. But what I'm going to do, and I've been doing it now, is to expose that 80% of the revenue we're supposed to have from crude oil is stolen away. And you must have known that story. I've been blowing that whistle for a long time. So once a government that is losing 4.4 billion every month to crude oil theft, stop being the government, and I am the government, that will stop. And revenue collection, for the most part, I don't think they are reporting up to 40% of the revenue they are collecting. So once I do that and I straighten the book, I don't see any debt that Nigeria is owing that we cannot. But because there's no time, I hope one journalist or somebody somewhere is going to call me for a debate with the government, preferably Minister of Finance or anybody who is there or debt management office, and I will show to you that they are frightening you with these so-called debts. They're just using an excuse to not perform their functions.
Thank you so much, Nadi. So I had no idea that we have.
Thank you so much. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye. I had no idea we have fake debts. That's a discussion for another day. The next person is supposed to be Joy, but he says your devices are not connected. I'm going to move on to Rudolph Okonko, Dr. Damages. Hi, tell us where you're calling from, and please go straight to your question. And Joy, please connect your devices in case you can hear me. Hopefully, you can.
All right, Prince. My name is Rudolph. I'm in New York City. I want to thank you for making yourself available for this conversation with Nigerians, and I hope you do more of it. It will help you, and it will help Nigerians to know you. I didn't know before this that you were the same person that made a speech at the NBA Nigerian Bar Association conference, and but my question is this: are you not afraid of being the president of Nigeria? If they hand over Nigeria as it is today to you, won't you be scared? I think a normal human being will be scared to deal with that. Now, let me go to some of the headlines you've made recently. Once in one headline you said I won't appropriate our oil money as budget if elected president. You said you put it in a fund, and this is money that you acknowledged that is not there because it's being stolen. Okay. Then there's another headline where you said, "I will end insurgency and banditry within 100 days if elected president." Now, to people who have looked at Nigeria, the different aspects of the country, when they see this headline, serious people, they will think that there's something not serious about you wanting to be president. Why would somebody look at Nigeria today? You are one man. Who will be your team? Who will be the people that will go to that government with you to clean up things so that in 100 days you can deal with the issues of insecurity in Nigeria? How do you? I think, Nigeria is a serious situation. We know that. Everybody knows that. And we want serious people to handle Nigeria. And if you want to present yourself as a candidate for president, there are some statements that I expect, and I think Nigerians expect that you will give that a serious thought. Like relocating the military barracks, that's not the reason why they are not functioning. I'm sorry, but I listened to you. I invested 1 hour of my time listening to you. I wish there would be more time that we'll have one-on-one conversation about this. I think Nigeria is in a serious problem, serious situation. We need serious person to deal with that.
Are you saying he's not serious?
I don't know, but I feel like
Response.
I'm I wanted to listen to you. I wanted to hear what you are going to do. I wanted to see serious. There's no money in that country. We owe money. The government cannot pay the debts. And you are saying you are not going to touch the oil money. You are keeping it for the next generation, which is good. It looks nice on paper on when you hear that. But how do you begin? Where do you get the money? Who will collect the revenue? If you say that the revenues are being stolen, that is less than 30% that is being collected, how do you collect it in 100 days? How do you deal with insurgency? The military is corrupt. How
let him answer. Yeah, really. Let him answer, Rudolph. It's okay. Take a deep breath. Breathe, Rudolph. Okay. Answer.
My sympathies are with Rudolph at this time. They've successfully frightened my brother. I don't think I even practice his medical license that Adeola gave to me. You know, let me explain to you. You have to understand the truth about the country and bring solutions based on the truth. Now, once you remember, they didn't acknowledge that they were stealing the crude until I started making noise about it. And when I started making noise about it, people were asking me, are you serious? I thought, how can this be happening and the government will be quiet? Now it is clear once the government acknowledges that it's happening. So let me explain to you so that you can understand. Insurgency is a government program. It is not as if the 1st Division, 2nd Division, 3rd Division, 7th Division of the Nigerian Army in a country of Nigeria is just a little bigger than Texas, that we cannot comb the land. I speak to military people who are in service. I speak to those who are out of service. I ask that question. I have the map of what I'm talking about. What is happening, and you must have seen part of it. I've seen them in your comedy, where you will see that when they say, I need so billions to fight insurgency, otherwise all of us will die. A few years later, you will discover that that money has been sent to other things, not related to it. And by now you should know that there is no Boko Haram person who is bulletproof. And I don't know whether you have ever seen a satellite coverage between Abuja and Kaduna. And in many of, if you have taken a train between Abuja and Kaduna and see all the Biningwari and all those places all around there, you will see that there's no way that you will say that Nigerian military is not able to do a geospatial coverage of that area. So what I'm letting you know is that the government of the day is not fighting insurgency. And not only me, you, when you come out of your fright and you are with me in government and I explain to you how I'm going to do it, you will realize that if you section these places, Sabisa Forest, Binigwari, Goza, Bama, all those sectors, go to Oyo State, Okeogun, all those places. If you section them into, say, about 25 square miles each, you section them like that, and then you put platoons and boots in all those places, and you have engagement, you will see that these people are going to run away. I know many people who have practiced this outside the government, some state government, even some section of the country that have these other vigilantes. They've tried it. I've spoken to you on TV about how when my campaign during the primary was going to Zamfara State, we went past a checkpoint full of soldiers, dreadful looking soldiers. And the impression was that if you go past this point this night, all of you are going to die. Nobody goes past that. And my campaign team said, okay, we need to find somewhere to sleep in this bush. After a while, one plucky fellow said, no, I know some people in this area. Let's go and get vigilantes and use them to chase away these so-called bandits. And vigilantes were hired for less than 100,000 naira. And the vigilantes chased the hell out of these so-called bandits. And the campaign reached Guzo that night. Now, immediately, I went on TVC and I said, hey, guys, Nigerians, I've discovered another thing. I want you to know. There are bandits that soldiers will say, don't go there, you are going to die, sleep in the bush, that ordinary vigilantes can deal with. And I've taken intelligence from many places. Now, let me know that. Now, second, let nobody lie to you that there's no money in government. Ask that person to give you an account of how much money has been made out of liquefied natural gas. We are on the 8th train now in some of the investment. Let them tell you. Let them tell you how much, where the crude that is being stolen is going. You, as a reporter, if you go to a Lloyd's register, if you go to IMO, go to other sources, even for a little fee, you can be able to trace who is taking the crude, where they are taking it to. So it's easy to stop that. Once you stop that, and you don't have people in your government, because remember, when we are elected, I'll be the only person with my vice president elected. So any other person who is in government is somebody I have brought into government. So it's not as if people talk as if I'm getting the government job as a general manager. I am going to become president, commander-in-chief, and the villa is empty legally, except I retain you. So when I go in there, I know the people who are, this intelligence I'm getting, this information I'm getting, this analysis I'm doing, I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with a team of patriots who have many occasions tried to help the government. For example, I spoke with someone who was in the central bank before, and in a private discussion, we were discussing whether we can save 5 trillion out of the 6 trillion they say they are spending on subsidy. That's why they say they have no money. And we discovered that we can do so. And also told me of attempt that he made. He went to the president at that time that he was working for and said, sir, stop signing this subsidy money. See this vessel. Let's say it's called Rudolph MV Rudolph is this vessel. This MV Rudolph that's supposed to be at Atlas Cove discharging 60,000 metric tons of PMS has not been in West Africa for the past 7 years. So I don't pay the money. And did the analysis one by one. What did he do? He lost his job. So if I was president, he wouldn't lose his job because I don't need anybody to keep slush fund for me somewhere. So I'm letting you understand that it's not difficult to run the government, but it is difficult to run the government if you are just being brought by this same cabal who are in charge. Remember that those who were collecting subsidy money under President Goodluck Jonathan are the same people, by and large, with a few lucky ones added to it, who are collecting subsidy money under Buhari. So those people don't change. Those people who are collecting waivers and they're not paying revenue under President Jonathan are the same. It started with even President Yaradua. They are the same people still collecting waivers under Jonathan. They are the same people collecting waivers under President Buhari. So that is why it looks like there's no money in the country. There is money. Why is it that when it's election time, billions are coming out? And you know how it is. Why is it that no minister is resigning? The finance minister says the economy is so bad, it's so parlous, I can't manage it. Well, then why don't you resign? So the entire Greek government resigned when they said they couldn't pay the IMF. And they said, well, we can't do it. And they all packed up. In Italy, when they had their fiscal cliff and they couldn't cope, the entire government resigned. This is the only one that they keep getting more robust, personally richer, and increase in number, and they keep telling the people that there's no money. So don't buy into that. It's not that difficult. It's that they're not doing the job. Nigerian army is extremely strong. Nigerian security is so strong that it can fetch Nnamdi Kanu from East Africa. So it shows to you that they have selective competence where they want to do things. So don't assume that they don't know what they're doing. So what I'm going to do is come in there and give direction. But I also know that there are certain people in the elite circle who help them to write newspaper articles, who are the explainers, givers of academic excuses on behalf of the establishment. So they will help you to continue to repeat the same false statistics all the time. Repeating. The Bureau of Statistics takes its statistics as secondary statistics by taking primary statistics from NNPC. So if you take, for example, I got the latest statistics, which is insulting. It says that Nigeria is no longer the largest supplier of crude oil in Africa. Angola has surpassed us, and they even said that we are now producing below 1 million barrels. We're in the neighborhood of 970, 800, thereabout. Lies. because you will see that vessels are coming into our country and taking large quantity of crude. As I'm talking to you now, I'm not talking of the past, I'm talking to you now. They are taking crude from Nigeria now, unrecorded. So a government that is close to the kind of government that I will run will not tolerate that. If you go to Holland, you go to Switzerland, you will get enough information as to the tank farm where these things are, this crude is going, the refineries that are taking them, the companies that are diverting the money. So what are you talking about? There was a time somebody told us in this country that Abacha took no money, and they were able to swear by whatever God they had that Abacha took no money, but you are receiving Abacha loot up to now. So let us open our mind.
All
You
right.
cannot be an effective commander-in-chief if you don't have independent information.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We have other people online. Dr. Damages, I hope you are breathing now, you know. So the person named Joy, it still says your devices are not connected. I need to kick you out of the studio. I'm not using my word. That's the word that they have in the studio. So that someone else that will have their devices connected can come in. Dr. Damages, thank you so much for joining us. And so I'm going to move forward to the next person. Since Joy did not connect his or her devices. Daniel Abe, thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from? What's your question? Daddy, please, we talked about this the last time. Let's keep it short and sweet, you know, it's so that other people can ask questions. Go ahead,
okay.
Mr.
Good evening over there. My name is Daniel. I'm calling from Ecuador.
Hi.
The opportunity being given for me to be able to ask my question, and I appreciate Mr. Prince. Thank you for the time. Okay, I actually want to know what are your plans or objectives when it comes to the health sector, because it's more or less like an abandoned sector if we get to look at it from different point of view. First of all, let's take a look at the rural areas. Not everyone gets the opportunity of receiving the health that in our constitution is being stated that each and every one is being guaranteed, let me say that way, being guaranteed health as a whole. Now, a good health. Now, coming to the point of the health sector, we are being given the idea that they are actually functioning. Meanwhile, when you go to the hospital, they tell you they don't have certain types of drugs, or they don't even have equipment, or they don't even have the materials for them to be able to attend to your needs. Now, why is it that those who are opportune, the first thing they do is fly out of the country to receive treatment or receive any attention needed? Now, I want to know, what are your plans? Because it's really a concern for we Nigerians, because everyone is not actually looking at that sector, but it's more or less like a concern, because we have most of our medical doctors leaving the country, and we're talking about excellent doctors leaving the country, becoming well-known doctors overseas. And same Nigerians go over there to receive attention from them. So I want to know, what are your plans and what exactly do you think will be the way forward? Thank you.
Thank you. The first thing to remember is that health is concurrent. Health is on the concurrent list. So the federal government, which I'm trying to work for or lead, has interest in tertiary health. We do a bit of specialist hospital, and we're also in charge of regulation of medical education. And then, of course, that will lead to having teaching hospitals. We also know that we have global mandates from WHO and other international engagement. We have certain and MDG. So because of that, we also have focus on primary health care. So basically, there are 4 things we need to do. One, you need to, because health is personnel intensive. A doctor under a tree is a hospital in certain situations. So you want to make sure that that doctor is happy to be under a tree to start with, to give you inoculation and basic things like that. So what the major problem facing the health sector is that the personnel there, doctors, internists, surgeons, pharmacists, lab tech people, they feel like they're wasting their time, because the international labor market in health is an open competitive market. It's a perfect market. So I know what I would earn if I was in Oman or Saudi Arabia. And I'm not going to sit down here and you're owing me salaries. They're not going to be happy with that. So we need to work on that. But we will not be able to pay competitive wages. But if you're a doctor and you have access to housing, transport, free education for your children, and your pay is regular, I think many of them will wait for other patriotic and emotional consideration. Secondly, doctors actually want to be interested in outcome. Medical personnel, they like outcomes. So you don't want someone dying on the surgical table because you've not been able to sanitize quite well. You just need a basic, even alcohol, to sanitize. You don't have it. So you have no bed for people who should have inpatient care because you run out of beds. You say, okay, come tomorrow. And before they come, maybe they don't come, mismanaged. So you have to invest in primary infrastructure for healthcare. Thirdly, health is also linked with other infrastructure. So if you have a hospital, MRI machines, CT scan machines, many of them require stable electricity. So that's why my knowledge in independent power supply, in off-grid power supply, is that all our teaching hospitals and general hospitals, I will take them off-grid until our electricity is stable. I will make sure many of them don't need more than 400 kilowatts, 600 kilowatts for the big ones. For the small ones, they need more than 120 kilowatts. So I can be able to say, I give them 40-year stable electricity in the teaching hospitals. So those are the things you do. It's basic things that are making them to run away. That is to say, their pay, the work condition, the tools to work with, and the idea that we are also doing other things in terms of training people to replace those who are going. A country like Nigeria, if I were in government, will not cry too much because those doctors that are going overseas are not lost to us. One, they earn income and send to us. Second, we can actually integrate them with virtual medicine now. They can come home, they can be there and be rendering services home. So I will do a replacement plan whereby I will try to retain those who want to stay. Those who are already exposed, what I will do is that I will increase first medical care, medical training should be free. I don't see any reason why a person wants to be a doctor who's going to take the Hippocratic oath needs to find money to pay you. So we should have free training for doctors. And I will increase the training opportunities. I have more than 3 students now that I'm sponsoring who want to study medicine, and they're waiting 1 more year or 2 because not that they're not good, there's no space. So, and 2 days ago, I sent someone to Afebala University, and they said, sorry, the last space left for medicine was taken the day before. Sorry, this person should do something else. So we need to expand that. If you do that, you have no problem. Not much problem to deal with.
Okay, if I'm being permitted to ask one last question, like when it comes to, sorry, Adewole, I don't know if I will be able to just ask one more question about the educational sector, please.
The educational sector is also linked to that, but now that you open the opportunity for me, also the cost of care. We need to have a public insurance, and I know the actuarial science behind being able to give free care, health insurance, because it's the deductible once people get employed. So I will give care because sometimes facilities are there, the people are just abysmally poor, that even to register their name with 200 naira is difficult for some people. So people come to me and say, I have this prescription and it's 800 naira, but I can't buy the medicine. So we need to look at the cost of care and make sure that we balance that. Now with education, for me, it's also concurrent. What I will do, because I believe that I shouldn't be too much interested in primary education as federal government. Obasanjo just started under the military, what calls the Universal Primary Education, UPE. I think that was when I got enlisted in secondary school myself, UPE. But we should hand over that to the local government and the state now. What I will deal with are federal government colleges. The first thing to do is to establish one standard, up-to-date federal government college in each of the 360 federal districts. That way, you won't have competition too much acrimony about my child cannot enter because of my state of origin and all of that. So, and then some of them will specialize in science. In those days, we used to have government science school and all of that. So we do some of this now and take them into the new knowledge. The last thing I want to do is ASO. I don't have a problem with ASO. The money is there. It's not like the days when I was in school, where there was no money. If you go to the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, the money is there. All I need to do is to remove the politicians from the money and create a trust fund where perhaps I would recommend Rudolph Okonkwo to go and harass them there for me and put some other people there on this trust fund. So people are independent of government. Then you have well-respected auditors auditing it publicly. Then the money is allocated to the governing council of the universities. And I can guarantee you, I told everybody on my campaign, no politician, not one, will go to the governing council of any universities. Not at all. As a visitor to the university, the governing council will be people who have experience in education or people who want to be champions of those universities and help them to raise funds. Because I've done that job as a lawyer in New York, helping to manage endowment funds for universities and all of that. I know how to do it. And that's why when I came to America, I met with the historical black colleges and universities and said, I want you to help me to manage, to contribute 2,000 professors to help with the gap that we have now because of brain drain, because of poor training, and over time to open virtual training and all of that to people. So we do that. You have no business. I want to be the president who will see ASU president at the airport. I don't know who he is. I don't want to have issues with him. And I don't want honorary degrees too. Take care of yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your answers and actually appreciate the opportunity being given. Wish you best of lucks and thank you, Diola, for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
For your time. So I've been seeing a lot of comments from some of you saying, Adewole, let him explain. Oh, some of us are beginning to fall in love with him. I'm ready to vote for him. This person said, Adewole, please let him explain. Oh, we need to hear all he has to say. Yeah, Adewole, let him speak. Very few candidates have very well thought out answers like this. If his answer is short, you will say he doesn't know what to say. So I'm seeing comments like that. So that's why I stopped interrupting and that's why I stopped saying, please make it short and so we can get more people. So having said that, the reason I read those comments is to be able to tell you guys that we may not be able to take everybody because we want to give him time to explain well with every question. So right now, I only have 4 more people in the studio. I've been seeing a lot of comments like, Adewole, please drop the link. I'm not dropping it again until we finish this 4 people. I'm sorry. And then after we finish the 4 people, I will now ask him, Esa, do you feel like going on? Because I know that we have been on for almost 2 hours. So if
I did 13 hours on Twitter space, so we can match that.
Okay. I will let him the next person. That is Ehimare, and after him there is Kayode, and then after him there is Agbo. So it looks like he would be willing to keep going after, but I'm still going to bring in these 4 people and then I'll post the link again. So if you have questions for him, please stay tuned. He's willing to be on the show for 13 hours. Ehimare, please tell us, turn on your video camera, tell us where you're calling from and your question. So I'm not sure if Himari could hear me. I'm going to have Kayode on in the meantime. Okay,
okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Please turn on your video camera so we see your face.
Okay. Let me just try.
And in the meantime, you can be asking your question.
Okay. Before I do that, let me just quickly go on. I think my question goes like this. Presently, we are experiencing a lot of your issues in this country, and one of them is security. Then on the other side, we have agitation and for other sessions, those clamoring for marginalization and the rest. Let me restrict my question to some names or group of people. In Kano or in the north, we have the leader of the Shiites currently in their prison.
Then in the east, we have Unadi Kano, currently with the DDS custody. Then maybe at the southwest, we still have Sunday Igbo in Republic of Benin, and also Omoyele Sowore, who has been restricted to Nigeria, and his passport is currently with the Nigerian government. Now, you talk about the security, and also in a way of maybe mention or that is the issue of one Nigeria syndrome. How do you want to reconcile these people together, or how do you want at least to solve this issue we are having presently, whereby you have some in detention, some outside the country, some are not being allowed to move? This is a Nigeria for everybody. So what is your own take as regard this practice by the existing Nigeria government? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will comply with the law. The law is that every Nigerian has fundamental human rights under Chapter 4 of our Constitution. And my government, many people have problem with government just because of criticism. Some just express their mind, whether they want a different structure for the country. So for those people, I don't have a problem with them. But one thing that will be clear, and I want people to understand, rule of law, law enforcement, is not the job of politicians in government. So I noticed recently that Ohanes Ndigbo and some other groups went to President Buhari and asked him to release Nnamdi Kanu, for example. And the president said he will look into it. I already know that that's not rule of law. Ideally, it's not the job of a president to interfere with law enforcement. So if these people have actually committed an offense, it means that the law should take its course. So what I got from that is that the president knows that those people have committed no serious offenses and that maybe he's just holding them for political reasons. So in our government, we are not going to hold people for political reasons. And law enforcement will be so clear that before the law enforcement goes to the opposition or anybody who is not on the side of the government to enforce the law, they will have been seen to be enforcing the law uniformly, even within my government. So that is what we need. But with respect to this agitation here and there, if you listen to the facts behind the agitation, some of them are just asking for basic things that a country should do anyway, basic rights, basic access to government, and stuff like that. Some of them have disagreement. Imagine if in the UK, those who are saying Scotland should break away from the United Kingdom, imagine if they were charged to court and arrested. It doesn't mean that Scotland is going to break away. You can keep talking about it. But the country, as president, if you keep saying that one group or the other should break away, all I will do is to continue to make the country more united, fairer, with better justice. You have nobody to follow you. So I don't need to arrest you. So those are the things that we need to do. We don't need to arrest anyone. You can go and stand anywhere and say Nigeria will break tomorrow. It's not going to break because I am going to run such a good government, make it inclusive, make it fair, make it transparent. So you will see that I'm even the first person who is willing to lay down my life. So you won't even want to toy with the country. But to say that you can use force, intimidation to change people's mind, they're going to be stronger and more annoyed. So I think that's the case, and that's what we're going to do. I don't want to break Adeola's law of 1 minute, if I haven't broken it already.
Thank you. Ehimare, did he answer your questions? I can move on, right, to the next person?
Just move on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. And Kayode, you're next. Thank you for joining us. Tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Kayode Adeyemi. I'm calling from Kentucky, USA, actually. So thank you so much, Adeola, for this opportunity. And I also appreciate the words spoken by Prince Adewole. He has a lot of things in his hands to do for Nigeria. So my question is that do you think you are a threat to other political aspirants in this position? Do you think you are a threat to them? I mean, do you think you are able to compete elderly with well-known like aspirants for the presidential position? That's the first question. The second question is that looking at the problem of Hausa Fulani in Nigeria, the fights and everything, kind of cultural and governmental stuff, what do you think you can do to solve this problem? To make the Hausa and the Fulani kind of connected and be part of the country, to have a sense of belongings? Because I think this is one of the problems that causes the Boko Haram and everything in Nigeria. So my last question is that corruption has gone so deep in the country, even from the top to people that are, to the layman, to getting jobs, buying stuff. Corruption is so deep in a way that you cannot separate it from the day-to-day lives of some people, not all Nigerians actually. So what do you think could be the basic solution to solve the problem of Nigeria? Let me reframe that question. What do you think is the major problem to Nigeria that can at least have a sense of integrity, national kind of integrity, a kind of sense of honor that everybody will have, and a kind of conscience that rule their heart, that nobody is there to cheat each other? What do you think can be put in place? Do you think it's about putting force in place, or what do you think are the things you can? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Number one, I am a threat to poverty and insecurity. I'm not a threat to any candidate. Everybody knows that it doesn't matter how many of us climb mountains, there's only going to be one of us who's going to be president. So for that reason, even if I drop out today, it doesn't mean the other person is going to be the president. He still has other people to worry about. So the same way, unless all the other candidates step down and I'm the only one going unopposed, I don't see any of them as a threat to me. I believe that in Nigeria of this time, what is going to work against anybody is whether they can work very hard. If you are going to be complacent, sitting down, granting interview, and doing Twitter page, and you think that you're going to win, you're not going to win. You're going to win only when you've come into the heart of every voter, and they know you, they know what you stand for, and they can decide whether to vote for you or not. So I'm not competing against the notion of whether someone seems as a threat or not. I'm competing against the target I've set for myself, that anybody who wants to be taken seriously has to be able to explain himself and explain his point and reach the people where they are. Now, with respect to ethnicity, whether it's Fulani, whether it's Hausa, these diversities are not the problem. It's what we make of the diversity. The system is designed to create tension. So people believe somebody is going to take their land, somebody is going to take their farmland, somebody is going to steal their cow, somebody is going to take their job, somebody is going to take their position in government, they are competing for school admission. So this diversity that we have, the government is creating artificial scarcity. So if you want to farm, the government has no clear policy on animal farming. So you have to struggle as if somebody is planting crops where you want to graze your animal, that person is your enemy. Or if on the other hand, somebody is grazing animal where you have your farm, cassava farm, that person is an enemy. It's the job of the government to delineate places and methods and let it clear to everybody. If you want your child to go to government college, you start worrying about the fact that you're from so-so state and that some other person from another state may score less and you go in. I've explained that you remove this scarcity. You don't use diversity that we have to become a problem where you make people to compete on the basis of this diversity. People should compete on the basis of their ability. So that's why in Nigeria, you have tall people, short people, fair-skinned people, dark-skinned people, but they don't discriminate against one another. But if you say that you want to employ people into NNPC, and you want to employ 10 tall people and 5 short people, you will see that short people association will be formed to complain. Why are you employing tall people? Why not short people? an identity that wasn't there before. So the fact that you have all this ethnicity is not the problem. The problem is that the government is now using it as a basis to share position, to contest election, to do all of those things. Those are the things I will remove. Now, with respect to whether we can deal with these problems you find, insecurity and all of that, we can deal with them decisively. They're not so difficult to deal with. What is most important is that you have to have a government that is competent and that is working. And when government works, you will see the result of the work. But when government is not working, that's where there is problem. Now, in a country that has protection, people have a feeling that if you try to do something to me, to injure my property, to injure my reputation, or to take my life or limb, the government is there for me. And that is the fact that government is not there for Nigerians is the reason why everyone is shouting and raising identity, raising all sorts of issues. So I just want us to understand that. But I have a feeling that there's one other question you asked me which I have not answered. Which one is that?
Yeah. The question is that how do you deal with corruption, especially?
Okay, now let me tell you about corruption.
No, not the one in the power, the one in between the masses, the public, where
let me tell you how you deal with corruption. Our job when I'm in government, my job is first to fight corruption inside my government. So when you fight corruption inside the government, the people of Nigeria live by example. So they are following what the leaders do, and they feel disgruntled. In fact, they feel violated when a corrupt governor is telling teachers not to be corrupt because teachers are collecting. Imagine policemen on the highway collecting 20 naira, being told by commissioner of police who collects 20 million naira bribe regularly that the officers see their boss collecting such money and is now giving a lecture early in the morning on the parade ground. Don't collect bribe. Don't disgrace the police. They just be laughing. This guy is not serious. With the level of corruption in Buhari's administration, it is difficult to tell someone who is on NYSC, who is working in INEC, not to collect money when they are seeing Accountant General taking 109 billion and nothing is happening. Nothing serious is happening. So what we need to do is, for me, that we enter government and you cannot do corruption in the government. So when the government is not doing corruption, then it is easy for you to now show a sample to many Nigerians and they'll start succeeding without doing corruption. And those who cannot be helped, it is those people that you use the police and all of that to deal with. But you must be able, it couldn't be too hard. I think a president should not last in office if he's not able to abolish corruption inside his own government, because the president has a lot of powers to find out what the officials are doing, has a lot of powers to fire anybody that you want to fire. So why is it difficult? I think the problem is that those who in government themselves don't see the corruption as anything bad. And if you notice in the country, the corruption that people complain about is other people's corruption, not their own. So I think we will make a difference when we come in. My team, we've been talking that we're going to come in, and just by the sheer example of you seeing what we are doing, you will not even want to touch corruption. Because when you see that my attorney general knows that he can lose his job if there is an open allegation that is involving corruption, the IG of police can go, any minister can go, any police constable can write a letter to me and say, I'm going to arrest the Minister of Finance because he has committed one fraud or the other. So that is what you call a government. I'm not going to be going from door to door saying the change begins with you and start preaching to people. I will start in-house. First, myself, my family, people around me, zero corruption. Then people working in my government, zero corruption. One mistake, you are gone. So once that is there, Nigerians are not like directly children of the devil as such. So once they see that the leadership is showing good example, they will follow. Even when President Buhari came in 2015, There were many Nigerians who were in the mood of repentance, who thought that, okay, since the clean guy has come, unfortunately, well, the person who they were trying to emulate is worse than the person that they threw away. So they realized that, okay, they're all the same. So, but in our case, they will say that it's different.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, let's take the next person. Have a good one, my brother. The next person is Agbo. Hi, tell us where you're calling from and your question. And the next person after him is T. T, please make sure that your camera is on because it's off. And after him is Dr. Soul. And then David Emeka. And then after that, I have Emmanuel, Dr. David Adekoya, Engineer Israel Bami Boye, and Chibuzo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Agbo. I'm calling from the UK. Good evening, Prince Adewole. My question has been touched on by the last caller in terms of grassroots politics, not just leadership politics. So we have people like me who are genuinely worried about Nigerians and the way we select our leaders. This is a genuine worry. So my question is basically, how do you reassure people like me not to give up on Nigeria? People who are watching the way we think, the way we follow a bandwagon, the way we don't even process issues. I mean, this is really, worrying. We're looking from from almost like we're watching a football match. I mean, Nigeria does need to sort the issue of diaspora voting, but that's a separate matter. For now, we're just looking as if we're watching a football match and shaking my head. What is wrong with us? I think Dr. Damages raised issues in his normal way, but he's touching on a genuine point that, the people who are speaking real facts, real hard truths, you're concerned that why aren't Nigerians listening? What is wrong with us? Why are we protecting our abusers? Why is it that the standard parties, the standard people who we know for years have been involved in the current darkness are the ones we're promoting? We all know that the elections has 18 candidates, but even some of our press men talk as if we've got just 3 or 4 candidates. And those 3 or 4 candidates are the same people who brought us to this darkness, this mess, this ugliness, this daily death across the country. What is going on with us? So in some circles, I think medical fields or psychologically, it's called a Stockholm syndrome. It's almost like a mental virus. What is wrong with us? Are we blind? Are we deaf? What didn't we learn anything from 2015 and 2019? I'm sorry that if I come across as somebody who's really, really in pain or hurt, about our situation, but the people themselves, is it possible in the campaign season to reach people to stop approaching politics as if it's a church or as if it's their pastor? I don't understand what's wrong with us. Apart from MKO 1993, I can't really think of any general election that was based on issues free of ethnic and religious sentiments, just based on competence. MKO didn't have a job in politics prior to that. It was just poverty, addressing, the issue. So what is wrong with us? How can you reassure? Because really, many of us are on the brink, and we know that those who are on the brink, like me, are just one category. A lot of people have already crossed that barrier. And earlier callers have touched on this already. There are people who are based abroad. I'm sorry.
You're asking your own question already.
No, just one. Basically, the question is the same. How do you reassure us? How do we overcome Nigerian mindsets? It's a gutter standard, a poor standard. We're choosing why do we want to choose the best of 3 or 4 evils? What kind of mentality is that? What is wrong with us, Seth? Isn't it juju? What is going? Are we serious? Anyway, let me just. All right, I'm done.
I think you should let him say something.
I'm in pain. Like
I feel your pain. I know how it is because you live in the West. You know how easy it is for them to understand when the government is not performing. You know, months ago, there were people hailing Boris Johnson, but immediately they saw evidence that he was not meeting the standard of the society. They immediately turned their back. Not that they don't like him, but they like the country more. They have a standard. So what we need to do is to understand that, one, some of these things are contrived. There are people who are in the media or social commentary who are behaving as if they are independent. In reality, they are agents of certain people. So it's not as if it's representative of the whole country. I go around the country and I see that people are genuinely responding to their needs. They are hurt, they are betrayed, they feel betrayed, and they actually want to listen. I think the confusion that people have is that 2015 happened, and you wouldn't say that those people of northern Nigeria, those people of many parts of Nigeria who were shouting "Save Buhari" in the sun, running, people going hundreds of miles to go and witness a rally. The man will come for a rally at 7 p.m. or 5 p.m. People will have been climbing trees, climbing stadium walls from 9 a.m. So you cannot say Nigerians are not committed. The government of the day was giving money, doing something, but they were committed. But it's a heartbreak. It's a train wreck and a heartbreak. So it makes them to think that any other person who is coming, how do we know that this is another devil trying to fool us? So that's the concern. So we need to, people who are traumatized. You mentioned Stockholm syndrome. It happens to victims of abuse. So people who are traumatized sometimes don't know how to react. So rather than being depressed or angry with them, we should understand that it takes time for people to who have been overly disappointed, several times disappointed. It takes time for them to understand. If you look at many heroes in the Underground Railroad in America, freeing slaves from plantations, many times, most of their trouble was trying to convince the slave to agree to run away. Many of the slaves would not want to run away. They'll say, okay, how do I eat? Oh, let me catch me. My boss is nice. Oh, I will miss Miss Jane, the daughter, things like that. So they understood that component and they started training rescuers on how to assure people. So I think people are in our politics today should know that not only the country physically damaged, as you have seen the damage on the roads, infrastructure, and all of that, that actually the psyche of the people has been damaged. And that these people flaunt money here and there. So they will show example of Motor Park Tout, who is now sending his children abroad, who is blinging and all of that. Our music, our popular culture is saying that if you know how to dance, you can take power, you can. So people have been taken away. So we have to have competition of ideas. We have to talk to our people. I'm not giving up. I'm going around the country. I'm going to visit every of the 8,800 something wards. I've been doing that. I'm somewhere in Ibadan now. I'm going around. I'm talking to people. It doesn't matter. What you need to do is that the message has to be clear. It's not about pandering. I'm not looking for any position just for aggrandizement. What I'm trying to do is to ensure that the message gets to the people. I have confidence in the Nigerian people that where the message comes and they believe the messenger, they will act. What is happening now is that there's moral equivalence. They don't know who's actually lying to them. They don't know who is actually saying the truth to them. But with time, with explanation, this will go out. And I think some of the observations you made affect the elite more because the elite somehow, however marginalized the elite are, the elites tend to have some crumbs out of the wastage, out of the criminality in Nigeria. The elite, whether they're academic elite, whether they're media elite, whether they're legal elite like me, they try to get something out of it. And when you try to attack somebody who has been a benefactor before, or somebody they believe they can benefit from, they will start to explain here and there. And they are the people dominating most of cable news. That the people who are analysts in newspaper or columnists in newspaper, that people are analysts on radio shows, on TV shows. So it gives you they create a false momentum. But when you go below and go to the people, you see that they are hurting and they really want to be reached out to. I went for an event today that started at 5 p.m. and I discovered that people had been there since 6 a.m. on a Sunday. It was drizzling, the sunshine, and they were there, and I was close to tears. I said to myself, for God's sake, if people are still here, so it's not about, don't be discouraged by a few trolls who are paid by candidates to come and write so all the way. So all of that is just gimmick. At the end of the day, many of these people who tried this during the primaries, same thing during my primaries, people were writing all sort of thoughts. But if you go to the people, you explain to delegates one by one, the same way now, the voters are more, you explain for the voters, and they know that genuinely you are interested in solving their problem, people are going to respond. So let us keep the hope alive. Nigerian people are very good people, but they are facing hard times. And the political elite want to rewire their brain to make them what they are not, so that when they mismanage the country, they can go and blame the people and say, well, the people are not better themselves. They don't deserve better because you have to give them money before they come and vote. So the people themselves, because that's what abusers do, they will victimize. A rapist will say, well, the person is, why is he exposing their body? You know, a bully will say, well, why is the person talking to me anyhow? So the same thing, they will have abusive leadership who run abusive government, who do abusive politics. So they will want to incriminate the people with a little token, pay one newspaper editor to write rubbish, pay young people to tweet and collect 1,000 naira. Still, like, so they just give them something that made them to say, well, after all. So when I was coming to politics, they were counseling me. Oh, the Nigerians are hopeless. They will abuse you. Don't waste your time. Why are you campaigning? If you want something, we accommodate you. Even we have to give them money and buy the votes. Don't bother yourself. They are irredeemable. I don't believe so. I've talked to my people. I see them because I've seen Nigerians in all their colors. These are fantastic people. Just have the worst leadership on the planet. But I think we can come out of it.
Thank you. I'm going to take the next person. That is
Thank you.
T. Thank you. T, please turn on your video camera.
Hi,
And
Diola, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm working on that. But thank you so much, Prince Adewale. I just went over listening to you, and then based on the things that you said before in some of the platforms. On June 10, 2022, you made mention that the media is Nigerian problem and not the politician. And I see you sitting on this platform. Adeola um, is is one of the people that make the Nigerian voice, the Nigerian masses voice heard. So how then do you reconcile these based on what you've said before about the politicians playing gimmicks on Nigeria, and then you said in 2000 on the 10th of June that the media is Nigerian problem and then not the politicians. Now you also made mention about there is money in Nigeria. They are only playing games on people. The 80 billion naira thereabout that was stolen, was that money not true? Was the money not truly stolen? And then you also talk about you work with governments in the past. You also consult for them and things like that. So now I haven't worked for these guys, so to say, in the past, and possibly you still work for them. Um, how are we sure, or to what extent are we sure that you're the man that is fit for the job at this time for Nigeria, and then you have Nigeria at heart? If you can address this question, thank you so very much.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Thank you for the questions. I don't know where you are quoting from. What I've said on many occasions very clearly is that politicians alone cannot hold a country to ransom. There are many countries with terrible politicians. Because now I'm running for president, so I can't mention some countries so that when I win, they don't get annoyed with me and say they are not dealing with Nigeria. But There are many countries with very terrible politicians, but they can't get a lawyer to file a false affidavit. No lawyer will agree. You will see the troubles that President Trump ran into in his Justice Department. He couldn't get the lawyers to do what he wanted. He couldn't get White House staff to do what he wanted. He couldn't get security personnel to do what he wanted. So it's politicians alone. If they were the only people in the country that are a problem, we will not have many problems because we'll put them in jail. So in many countries, you have bad politicians, but they can't get judges to be bad. Judges are going to give judgment that is correct and according to the law and fair. So they won't get civil servants to agree to forge checks, to write false reports. They won't find. So that's what I'm saying. And they won't have media that can be bought or that can be unpatriotic or that can actually kill stories. So if you kill a story in this place, the other media is going to expose it. So, and I'm letting people know, it's not that I'm against the media, I'm a media operator myself. What I'm saying to you is that it is not good enough, it's not the whole truth to single out politicians. The politicians have massive contributions to make to our underdevelopment, but they are not doing it alone. And if you are going to synthesize the country, you have to replace the politicians with people like us who know what we're doing. And you also have to let people know that they have their own contributions to make. And that's the point I'm making there. With respect to there's money in government, it's obvious because you consider the way they are spending money. I'll give this example to you. I've given it to other people before. When Minister of Works and Housing, Raji Fashola, was asked why he couldn't complete the roads he's been doing over the years. Some of the roads, he inherited the roads. And he said, there's no money. And that in two of the roads, one he had to be given, he wanted 50 billion. It was approved for him, 50 billion, to do Lagos Badagry Road. He has, I think, another 50 billion or so, or thereabout, for the other road to Shangota or whatever. And then he has the Ibadan Express that has not finished since under Yaradua till the date. And he said that in one of the roads where he was supposed to get 50 billion, 50 billion, he was given only 200 million. So there was nothing he could do. And in one of the roads, he needed 50 billion. He had to borrow 7 billion, Sukuk. Sukuk is Islamic loan. It's a reasonable form of loan. They have a new format to it, but that's not the subject of today. And he borrowed 7 billion. So you would imagine that a government that cannot construct roads because it doesn't have 50 billion to give, can only give 200 million. A government that cannot construct roads because his minister has to go and borrow foreign money to cook. But that same government, Accountant General of the Federation, is able to steal 109 billion. So you can see the contradiction there. If there's no money in government to give to Fashola to build roads, where did the Accountant General find the money to one person who's not even a powerful person? Just an Accountant General, for God's sake. He's not even able to attend council meeting. It's not at the ministerial level. It can be replaced by 30 people in the same ministry. It's not really such a difficult person. There are many people who are chartered accountants in Nigeria who are fellows of the Institute of Accounting, who can be chartered accountant, who can be made Accountant General. But this person alone stole 109 billion, and that's in one transaction, and that's one person. So do you know what others are stealing? So that's the point I'm making, that there is money in government. But now Nigerians will be crawling in one corner, shedding tears, getting afraid. Oh, no money in my country. My country is borrowing foreign loan, and we couldn't do our roads because there's no money. But the other person, one person, is taking 109 billion. If you go to ICPC, there's no money, I say, to maintain our troops, to fight insurgency, so they are borrowing money. But if you see the latest report of ICPC, one officer, a general, stole 10 billion, and they are still investigating more. So, one hand, no money to pay soldiers, no money to buy platform, no money to prosecute the war. Another person can take 10 billion. If you go to Nimasa, you go and find out That one is going to trillion. In one of the states, 400 billion by the accountant general. That same state has not maintained its roads. There are people on the street who have no houses. There are people who have no job. But the accountant general of that state alone took 400 billion. 400 billion. So is it me now that I need to let you know that there's money in government? There's money. So that's what I'm letting you know. Then on the issue of having worked for government, it doesn't mean I work for Nigerian government. I'm saying I've worked for governments all over the world. And in Nigerian government, there are many times when they've sought my services, and some of them I'm not able to say for professional reasons. I don't want the Nigerian Bar Association or the New York Bar or the US Bar to question me or take my license, because when you work for clients, you need their permission. But they have to do with me trying to give intervention of similar things I'm talking about. There was a time in Nigeria, they tried to take 2.5 billion pounds out of Nigeria. As broke as Nigeria is, I stopped it. The government knows that. I was able to give them consultancy where the country will have been deprived of 2.55 billion pounds. I did that work and I was able to help the government. Both the government, their other authorities have written to me thanking me for that. So there are so many other things I can do. So to say I don't have experience in government, I don't have experience in carrying people's bag up and down and printing card and say I'm a special advisor to somebody. I don't have experience of sitting down in council and not seeing my president for a long time. I don't have experience of saying I want to do roads but no money to do it and all that nonsense. I have the experience of intervening in specific ventures and making them successful. That is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but
All right.
when it comes to stealing the money, sorry, Diola, the money that they stole were those money, not the money that they borrowed from, for example, China. Because what I've been able to trace from this government, now you talk about Buhari. Now everyone was thinking that when Buhari comes to power, he's a clean guy. Everybody was
Not
afraid.
everyone. I didn't think so. Maybe you
Well,
did.
okay. I was in Nigeria. I left. I was out of Nigeria for some years now. And the Badagry Express Road that you're talking about, started before I left Nigeria. Now, one question is who should even go and borrow money? Should the minister even have the access to go and borrow money? That's one. Then two, is it not the money that they borrow that they are even stealing? They borrow that same money, for example, from China, and they still stole that money. So I think they borrowed the money to create an awareness that there's money in government coffer, and then they still go ahead and steal the money. What can you say to
So
that, sir?
Okay,
before you answer this,
okay. Now let me just say this:
before
money
you
being stolen.
Sir, before you answer, I just want to say that even though I'm not going to interrupt when he's answering your question, please be mindful of other people that are trying to ask questions as well. I know he said he could go on for 13 hours, but I cannot. I need to attend to baby.
Sorry, Diola. Sorry
But
about that.
please, let's be mindful of others when we're asking and when we're answering questions. All right, go ahead.
Okay, now basically, money is being stolen at all levels. So there is enough money to run the country, so you don't have to borrow. That's the fact. The first thing you need to understand. But a lot of this money doesn't even get registered into government covers at all, because there is a federation account where money goes to. Any money that doesn't go to federation account is not likely to be seen by the public. So majority of the money being raised doesn't go there. They get frittered away. And then majority of the money that goes to federation account also gets stolen. And a lot of the money being borrowed, some of the borrowing are fake, and I can explain that to you. But even some of the genuine borrowings, they are being borrowed on the basis that they are going to use them, they are going to steal them, either through appropriation, through inflation of contract, or through outright uh, siphoning of the money. So many ways.
Thank you
Hello?
very much, sir. I appreciate you, sir.
So I'm going to let in the next person. And did NEPA take lights where you are, Mr. I want to say Mr. President to be, but
Yes,
I,
I think that I'm
you
somewhere in Ibadan, and I'm in a very beautiful government
hotel.
hotel,
So you're
and
trying to
then
be presidents, and just like that, NEPA took like so.
Nigeria happened.
That's one more reason why I should be determined to take care of this kind of thing.
Oh, this is very interesting. So, people, in case you don't see our guest face, you will see his teeth, you will see his glasses and his eyeballs. Is because NEPA, Nigeria has happened to him. NEPA has has taken light. Please and please, when you're asking your questions, we would love if you turn on your video camera so we know who we are. So he sees who he's talking to, because T did not turn on his camera the entire time, but that's fine. The next person is Dr. Soul. Dr. Soul, please. Oh, he turned on the camera
Okay.
already. Please
Yeah,
tell us where
good
you're calling
afternoon.
from. Never right. Well, hopefully you will still see his face. So
Okay. Right. Good afternoon, Adiola. Thanks to all you are doing. And good afternoon, good day, Mr. Prince Adewole. Thank you
Thank you, sir.
for the humility to come here and speak to Nigeria. Okay, the question I want to ask, Nigeria, just as most Black nations, the problem or the mess we have today is the handiwork of foreign agents. Even the corruption. When you come to power, there are things you may not know now. There will be some people in black suits. You have traveled a lot. It used to be conspiracy, but it's no longer. The information is out there. So if you look at the health, the big men going to Versailles for healthcare, it provides money for other country. Even the education, it provides money for other country. Even destroying of the refinery that we have to refine in Europe, it provides money for other country. Now, there are people they are going to kill if you want to stop that. And when you come to power, your chief of staff will come to you and ask you, this is the rule. This is what you need to follow. Now, how do you make sure you do not become a part of the status quo or a stooge to this power, these dark forces? If you look at Nigeria, there's a grip on every lucrative sector of Nigeria. So how are you going to be different? I'll give you an example of a president that was different. That is Magufuli, RIP, who died in Tanzania. So let me stop here. And this is one thing I want you to answer, how you will not be compromised and leveraged as every other allies in Africa.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, the international space is not for the innocent. And when the people say we are going to be an independent country, a sovereign nation, the boss know that they have to be tough on the international scene. And if you're a leader, you need to be quite wise and protective of your people in your dealings. I've had a lot of exposure internationally with different agencies, and I understand that whatever they do, some of them even operate through international multilateral agencies. Everybody is trying to feather their own nest. But you will notice that the people we're interacting with, whether our former colonial masters, who are in some way our new colonial masters, whether international obligations that we enter into, whether certain alliances we're in, other members of those alliances, other former colonies, many of them are doing well. So I think we need to look inward and ask whether our own elite understand how to give what belongs to Caesar, while at the same time try to take care of their own people. I think we are more likely to be suffering from the greed of our leaders who want to take what belongs to us to go and have another life somewhere. You will notice that there is no country in the world, not one, where in peacetime, without legal problem, where a former president or a former vice president lives overseas. It does not happen. You cannot be president, you cannot be prime minister of Canada or deputy prime minister of Canada and finish your tenure and go and live in Dubai. It's impossible unless you are a wanted fugitive and you're under international protection. So you don't have children of senior people in government, heads of state, going overseas to school. They don't do that. Rarely do you find heads of state going to other countries for medical care. They could kill your head of state there. They could drug the person. They could do whatever. So these people that we are blaming for our problems, they will take advantage of anybody. I believe that China will take advantage of the US. The United Kingdom will take advantage of USA. You saw recently that France was kicking all over the place. That Australia, US, and UK had the French launch in the submarine contract. So they are all competing with one another. Russia is trying to use gas to muzzle its way through Europe. And Europeans and Americans are trying to use Ukraine to put pressure on Russia. So even countries that are in the same alliance, America and Mexico, they are neighbors. You saw what they were doing over NAFTA. They're fighting. So you have to fight. The same way you struggle inside your family, that's how you have to struggle internationally. But if you have the head of your family who is selling your father's property for next to nothing because he wants to use the money to go and gamble, you don't say your neighbors are unfriendly. You just have an irresponsible person in your family. So it is our leadership that are irresponsible because they look at the white man that they are as if they are gods. And when they go overseas, they start smiling from ear to ear. They go to White House, it's as if the Nigerian president once went to the White House and said, this is the best day of his life. Can you imagine that kind of embarrassment? So this is the kind of thing. So it has nothing to do with the people. So there was a time in this country where we had Murtala Muhammad, and he was able to protect the country against international pressure. And we have a number of years, even Obasanjo took over, before Obasanjo turned the other way, that at the early part, Obasanjo was able to nationalize British Petroleum, did so many other things. They held their ground internationally. So to be strong internationally, you need to be strong domestically. You need to have a leader who is duly elected, not somebody that rigged the election and is not popular at home. Because when you run on the platform I'm running now, that's why I'm saying all the things people consider to be dangerous. I'm saying them not for fun. I'm saying them so that you can understand them and you can buy into them. And if you buy into them and I have your mandate, those are the things I will implement. And if I have a problem with anybody internationally or anywhere, you will support me. You mentioned Magafuli. Magafuli explained himself to the Tanzanians and told them why he was taking them on another path. And they understood him and they voted for him. And they is trying to take them on that path. Nigerian government, since 1999, we've not been having free and fair elections. We've not been having full mandate. We've not been, the leaders and the followers have not had the same understanding of what the government will do on getting there. So I think that we need to understand that, and international people, we compete with them all the time. We interact with them. I believe in your own field of endeavor, you will also compete with them. You don't give in. I didn't become a lawyer in New York out of the charity of white people. I became a lawyer that did quite well by competing, even inside the firm, even inside the same office. So it's the same competition. You just have to make sure that where the other countries are bringing their best, you don't bring jokers to represent you. People who believe that taking a picture with a white man is the greatest achievement of their life. People who believe that if they manage to go and enjoy free, 24-hour electricity in Dubai, they have achieved something. But in their hometown, in their home country, they don't want to achieve that. People, even in this country, people go overseas on holidays in countries that don't look as good as even their hometown. So that kind of mentality is what we need to deal with. The international community has not changed for the past 200 years. They will never change because in their own country, in their own countries, there are certain things they lack and they go out to provide for their people. So Europe is cold. They don't have gas. They don't have crude oil that much. So they will come to you to take from you. And if they come to you and you know what you want, they will pay. But if you too want to buy a house in Bishop Street, London, and Chelsea Harbour, then they will say, let me give you a house. Let them take the oil. So those are the things you need to do. So it's not that the white man is wicked. Well, how come Saudi Arabia is developed? They have oil. How come Dubai is developed? How come Botswana is okay? How come other countries that were behind us? How come Singapore is okay? If whichever way you want to engage them, I've represented international corporations, and I follow them to different countries. When they are coming to Nigeria, they talk of bribery. When they are going to other countries, they do their calculations correctly because they know in that country they will not accept. And the international community cannot be killing presidents every week. So if they know that you knock me out, my vice president Yusuf is someone like me. He was the NSAS coordinator in Kano. So he's even 3 times more stubborn than me. So he's going to take over. You want to kill that one too. Next one to that is Rudolph Okonkwo. Are you going to kill him too? Next one to that is Showore. Are you going to kill him too? So they realize that these people are solid. You know, even Kampaore had to cooperate with them before they could kill Sankara. So they will need an insider. Busia had to cooperate with them before they could deal with Nkrumah. So if you build a strong cadre, not just one man show, if you bring a strong cadre, they realize that all of you in that system, you deal with this person, the next person is there. You could see when Mugabe left, despite overstaying and all of that. And they put this Nawagwa. They see that it's also radical, not as much as Mugabe, but it's not pushover either. So we need to build a strong cadre for the country, and we'll be able to survive international conspiracies.
Okay, I must thank you. I think this is what Nigeria needs: somebody who understands the geopolitics of the world. Because I think I haven't heard this from anyone else, and I really thank you for this.
All right, thank you so much. Let's allow someone else to ask as well. Hi, okay, David.
Thank you, Adewole. Thank you.
Yeah, bye, Dr. Bye. Hi, David. Where are you calling from? And please, what's your question? And then Emeka, you are next. I'm going to add Emeka now so that David will remember there's somebody waiting.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I'm calling from Austria, to be precise, Vienna. My name is David, and I'm a student here in Vienna. And I just wanted to say a little thing. I am among the Nigerians that migrated, left Nigeria, crossed the Sahara Desert and crossed the Mediterranean Sea just to get to Europe here to make a life. What I wanted to ask, sir, is what are your plans in terms of engaging Nigerian youths, both those in diaspora and those at home? Because as a young Nigerian, I feel like I don't have this connection between my leaders and the young people. So there is like this distance between us. So what are your plans in terms of engaging us and hearing from us also? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will take every opportunity. I've been talking to youth groups, talking to individual youths. Even when I'm going on the road, I meet any person who is youthful and they want to ask questions, I talk to them. The only thing I know that I'm not going to do, I'm not going to take advantage of the relative lack of experience or relative lack of information of the youth. So try to use them to do Instagram and bling for me, and youth wear t-shirts and shake their body for me, youth for me. No, I want to shake your brain. I don't want to shake your body. I want to give you additional information. I want you to be as competent about your country as the people who are ruling the country, even more competent. I want you to remember that M.T. Umbu, at the age of 23, I want you to understand that the Queen Elizabeth of blessed memory that we're talking about was the Queen of England, ahead of the British Empire at the age of 26. And she knew, so information is what I can give to the youth. So you don't want to know that you left Nigeria and crossed Sahara and God save your life, you crossed Mediterranean, you are now in Vienna, Austria. You need to know why you left Nigeria in the first place. You can say no job, no electricity, no opportunity. You need to know why you didn't have it. And you need to know that within 3 years, it is possible for people in Austria to leave you there, and the Austrians themselves will come to Nigeria. Hopefully, they won't have to cross the desert like you did. You need to understand that what took you away are basic things like freedom to live your life the way you want, in terms of the positivity you want to achieve, basic things like electricity, basic things like you want to live in a safe neighborhood, basic things like social security. You want to get a job, and if for any cyclical reasons your job is lost, that you don't become hungry or a tout on the street, you can go to a government program that is designed for that, and you can seek help. You can, if you feel bored in life, you don't like your job, you look like you are stuck in one place, you can actually apply for a scholarship and go to community school and improve yourself. You can travel around Europe. You don't feel like a criminal because you have an Austrian residence. You can travel to different parts of the world. You don't have to be looking at them on YouTube and wishing, oh, I was there. So those are the things which you need to understand why they are not happening. They were happening in Nigeria before. And the reason is that the difference is the type of government we had then and the government we have now. And the attitude of selecting the winners of beauty contests, winner of game shows. Those ones have no consequences. If you vote for somebody as the most beautiful girl in your school, it costs you nothing. But don't use that same standard when you are selecting somebody who is going to be your president, who is going to determine whether your family is safe, whether your country is safe, whether your money is stolen, whether you are robbed blind, whether you can have sense of belonging at home. And I believe and I pray that Austria is a beautiful country, and I come to Vienna often. Maybe one of these days when I'm there, I will chat you up. I love the country, I love the canal, I love everything. But you will see that that country became rich because of people like Marco Polo, who went to China to try to do trade and introduce the people of Vienna into it. And you also realize that infrastructure, trade, rule of law is what is keeping Austria going. And you would also notice that since you got there, you discover that Nigerians, I respect the Austrians. I mean, from there I started learning a bit of German. But you will see that people you left at home are not more stupid than people of Austria. They're not silly. They are highly intelligent people. What is the difference? That they have a good government there. It's a very simple government. You have seen the prime minister going around on the streets. It's like your co-worker going on the street. So those are the kind of things you who are overseas will use as standard to educate other youths. Don't tell them, Japa after me. No, not all of you can Japa. And secondly, God forbid, like it happened in Ukraine, if something happens in Austria, you will be calling us to come and fetch you. You won't be calling the Americans. So you still have to have some investment here in terms of moral commitment to Nigeria. So what we are going to do is to have this conversation along this line, not to say, oh, something is trending. Somebody is following somebody and has got 2,000 people joining them on Twitter. No, the real consequences happen when you have people who are not knowledgeable. They embarrass you, they chase people away. Even as you are in Austria there, you have not escaped Nigeria, because I believe there are people asking you to send them euro, that they think you are printing euro on the street. Ask them to send them euro. So you see that the problems at home, if we can take care of them, it's a better world. And you must have been seeing many Americans, Australians, Japanese coming to Vienna on holiday and going back home. You should feel jealous of them, that they still are able to come to Austria like you, and they can go back to a prosperous country. That's the kind of thing I'm talking to the youth about. And it is through education, because the first introduction that the youth has to the country is when they are being educated from primary, secondary. So if we keep them in school on time, we get a quality education that is required on time, then by the time you are coming of age, you go into the workforce, you can actually take care of yourself. So the first thing to do is to have sound education for the youth, safe neighborhoods, and other things. So those are the things that I'm talking about, but it's not about who is trending or who is not trending. I want the youth to know about budgeting, foreign policy, economy, so that when you are making a choice, because a blind person with a PVC cannot thumbprint. So, and a person who is mentally blind, not knowing the issues, not knowing what this person stands for, not knowing the meaning of subsidy, not know the meaning of a balanced budget, not know the meaning of inflation. We are saying, go and get a PVC. Go and get PVC. To do what with it? If you don't know the issues at stake when you get the PVC. Those are the points of engagement with the youth.
Thank you so much. The next person is Engineer Israel Bamigboye. Thank you, David. Bye.
Hi, Diola.
Hi.
Good evening, Prince.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from the UK. My main concern is about the youth of Nigeria. I've listened to you, all your opinions and all the things that you have said. From all the things that you have said, you can see that the experience is there. But my main concern is that are the Nigerian youth ready to vote for you? Because a lot of them are not enlightened. A lot of the youth. So what is your plan mainly to really educate this youth in Nigeria? I was happened to be in Nigeria during the last election in Ekiti. All of them were saying that this is the candidate they prefer. But at the end of the day, the youth still went ahead and vote for another candidate that they didn't like. So it means that most of the problems of Nigeria are the youth mainly. And the solution to Nigeria problem are the youth. And I believe if Nigerian youth could be educated, could be enlightened and vote for the right candidate in 2023, for people like you, I believe they can rewrite the history of Nigeria. And one thing again that I will say again is that in the last election, the youth too, they play a very vital role, but I'm very disappointed during the times that they asked them to step down for each other. So they find it very difficult to step down for each other. So what are you doing out of all the youth, that is, all of you that maybe you are in the race, that you are below the age of 60? I'm expecting that at least 1 or 2 or 3 of you can combine together to make a formidable force to fight these people and make sure that we have the right candidate to be in Aso Rock by 2023. So what are your plans to really educate these youths in Nigeria so that come 2023, they will be able to vote for the right candidate and save our nation from all these calamities that we are having? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There are 4 solutions I found. One is that to deal with the youth, you have to know where they are. The youth are on Instagram. Any message has to be like 1 minute and below, because that's the system we are in now, and they don't believe in the long form. So I see after many TV interviews, I discovered many young people saying, "Who are you? We don't know you." And so I realized that you need to go to where they are. You need to go on Facebook. You go to do basic things, and so we need to go to the medium where they are. Secondly, we need to not talk down on them, because they are used to being blamed by their teachers, blamed by their parents, blamed by their neighbors, blamed by law enforcement, blamed for everything. So when the politician comes, start to blame the youth, they kind of turn off. So I try to kind of explain to them that even though you are a youth, you're not a child, you're not a baby. And the reason why you have a voter's card is because the country believes that at the age of 18, your brain should be mature enough to absorb adult information. And therefore, these are the adult discussions that relate to the politics. And politicians may come and distract you with a game show, with comedians, with influencers, and all of that. An influencer can recommend which weave on to buy or which glasses to buy, but he should not be able to tell you which government to follow, because you need to remember that has consequences. The third thing that I'm trying to do is to get the youth themselves involved. In SDP, almost 90% of our state chairmen are youths. In fact, in Lagos, Ondo, Ogun, Kano, we took our chairman and secretary from NSAS movement. We told them, you can't protest forever, you can't be at the toll gate forever, come and take position in the political party. We ceded House of Assembly seats to them, House of Reps seats to them, many of them free of charge, just to get them involved, because if they are involved in the process, many of them have been fighting me since we started, because they now realize that politics is difficult. You can organize a demonstration in one location, and stay there for 5 hours and say you are done at Luther. But when you are going from village to village, convincing people to come and register to vote, they're asking you difficult questions, you're gathering people, they now realize that that is why the politics has been in the hand of these people who are experiencing it, that it's not a simple thing. So that kind of engagement makes them to understand the issues. And then lastly, to do voter education. Like, I was in Ekiti, and we were the party that was robbed. We were supposed to win that election. INEC allowed some loose end to happen, some other things happen. The majority of what really happened was people buying votes. And those kids, when I saw them, the way they were laughing, they felt like they had a bonanza. Many of them were posting like this. I saw them live, and I realized that they did not know the arithmetic of what they were doing. That by collecting 2,000, 6,000 naira, they were actually denying themselves 24 million naira worth of social investment for each of them in terms of healthcare, in terms of housing, in terms of education. Many of those kids you see picture online who were dancing over money, they're at home now. ASU strike is ruining their future. So with this kind of message being passed to them, they will respect the vote, because I've seen Nigerian, I'm sorry to say, I've seen cases in my social research of Nigerian youth selling their kidney, even forming association of people who can sell kidney to people overseas. So they don't understand the implication of many things. I'm not saying they are stupid, but they are inexperienced. And I remember when I was 18, the kind of seriousness that I had. So it makes me sympathetic about people who are young. I know that it takes a time before you have an epiphany and understand the implication of what you are doing. So, so we keep interacting with them, and I believe that we can turn things around.
Thank
All
you.
Thank you very much.
Because you were talking about young people, I'm just going to say real quick that please don't generalize. Every time you talk about young people, you know what I mean. Like, there are young people who know what they're doing.
There are young people like me.
It's not a generalized thing that I believe, Deola, you have a role to play in trying in terms of educating many of the Nigerian youth to be able to select the right candidate coming 2023. Because many of them are listening to you at home. So we really commend you, we really love you. They love you back home. And what you are doing, everybody is happy with it. But I believe you can use your platform to really educate them and make them select the right candidate coming 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. So we only have 3 minutes left. I'm sorry, everybody, but I don't think we should do more than 3 hours, because then it gets too long for people that are trying to watch after. If someone is trying to watch after and they see that, oh, it's a 3-hour video, they may not watch. So we only have 3 minutes left, and this will be the last person to ask the question, unless the guest answers the question in less than 1 minute. Otherwise, everybody else that has been waiting for hours, they will not be able to ask their question. But real quick, would Nigerians in the diaspora or Nigerians outside of Nigeria be able to vote if he should be president? It doesn't have to be long, yes or no?
Yes, clearly.
Great. All right.
Not only that, everybody, because it will be voting through devices, post-made the same way. Yes.
Awesome. So the next person is Mr. Chibuzo Adi, and if time permits, then Temidayo. So, but we actually literally have 2 more minutes left. Mr. Chibuzo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Chibuzo, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, all right. This question I wanted to direct you to Adeola. It's unfortunately she direct me to you. But let me use this opportunity to just, greet everybody on this platform. It's very nice to discuss such a problem in Nigeria, because this is what concerns us. And this is our country, actually, regardless of the sentiments everybody are using. If you don't like the country, then you go and look for another country to stay. As far as this is our country, we need to maintain it and be strong with it. All this one we are pretending, we are Yoruba, we are Igbo, we are Hausa, we are pretending. We are Nigerians, and nobody can stop that. No matter how we call names, we still remain one people, one nation. You understand? So, and this type of sentimental politics is not going to take us anywhere, whether we like it or not. So what I want to say, just keeping in this platform is, there is no way any president will come to Nigeria and make any change without inoculating people with identity cards. We need identity card to eradicate crime. We need identity card to identify people. People are dying every day. We cannot even identify them. I can even ask you as a presidential aspirant, I can even ask you just a common question. Since you were born, how many people have died in your family? And you go and seek for death certificate. And those people are still in the census of Nigeria. How many people born in Nigeria today have common birth certificates? And those people are not even in the Nigerian census. And we are estimating we are 200 million. How sure are we?
So
how are we going to look?
Is this a question like for him?
Sorry, no, I wanted to direct this question to you so that you will advise the politician that's coming to you. When they are talking about fixing Nigeria, insecurity in Nigeria, you throw this question at them because we cannot do anything without identification. People will die. You find a dead body around the street. You can't even be able to identify them. You go and bury them.
Sure to bring that up. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, right. I'm still on the line. There is a lot of things I want to say about this very issue because we are talking about leadership here. And if we are talking about economy, we are not even talking about insecurity. We are talking about economy. We are not talking about agriculture because agriculture, nothing can survive without agriculture. Technology cannot survive without agriculture. Infrastructure cannot survive with agriculture. Health cannot survive with agriculture. These are our basic priorities. And what I'm trying to let the presidential aspirants take in there is we don't need to be talking about economy, and we don't know how to even start bringing this economy back to the people that need it the most. We don't have infrastructure. The investment cannot come to Nigeria without proper infrastructure. We don't pay wages. Look at the minimum wage in Nigeria, 30,000 naira. Adewole, you are in America. Most of you are in Europe. What 30,000 naira can do for you? Can you service your debt with that 30,000 naira as a civil servant? You cannot do anything with that money.
We appreciate all these points, sir. They're great. But we're actually rounding up the interview. We've been on for 3 hours. So I thought you had a question because if you don't, I would take the next person real quick that has a question. But thank you so much for all the points that you brought up. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Temidayo, do you mind giving us your question?
Okay. Thank you so much, Adeola. I really appreciate this. So let me make this quick since you have a time constraint. So this is it. Mr. Prince, good evening. I've been listening to you for more than 2 hours. And you said something, and I want to pick it up. I think Punch picked that up some few hours ago. And they said SDP candidate promises 3 million jobs. And that's a huge statistics.
30 million.
30 million jobs. Sorry, thank you for correcting me. 30 million jobs. And with the statistics that we have currently in Nigeria in terms of lack of jobs amongst youths, basically. And I want you to just briefly tell us, the youths of Nigeria, because I'm calling from Nigeria right now, and I know what it's like to be a Nigerian youth and having to get jobs here and there and everything. And just give us a brief blueprint. I think a lot of youths like me are listening to it right now, and they can actually agree to this. Can you just give us a brief blueprint of how you want to make 30 million jobs work out between youths in Nigeria? It's just a straightforward question, I think.
Okay, thank you. Number one, you start to get a job from agriculture. Agriculture is cultural to us. It's not difficult to do. And I gave an example in Southern Kaduna. Even if you go now, you can try it. If you have up to 50,000 naira, 100,000 naira, go to Southern Kaduna, you will find people or cooperatives that are growing ginger. And in the research that I did, on the average, they make about $20 million aggregate from export of ginger. Sometimes they make far more than that. But if you go into ginger processing to get ginger oil, you go from making 20 million from the same amount of ginger, from making 20 million dollars a year to make $1.4 billion a year from ginger. I do fish farming. So maybe one of these days, since you are in Nigeria, I can send you a video of my compound where I live. I create employment there. I use solar panel. I do fish farming. I do chicken farming. I do snail farming. I do bee farming. I do all sorts of things. So they're not complicated. You can still learn them within 3 or 4 months. And so you create rapid work from that. Second area where you create employment is green technology. The way you're talking, the way you look to me like someone that if I take you to my compound in about 4, 5 months, when you come out, you will understand how to connect an inverter or even modify an inverter. You will know how to connect solar panel, and you can go from community to community, start to create employment for young people who just go and do between 0.5 kVA to 7.5 kVA solar powered electricity for people. So that's in that sector. I do a lot of training in blockchain technology, and it's not only for cryptocurrency or other things. You can render a lot of services in the operational research and other automated processes if you understand blockchain, and some people are just talented in it. And you will see that I have investment in television, theater, and entertainment. And you can see that that is a good area. And when I was in university, I was football coach. You can ask any of my classmates at IFE. And I've always shown interest in sports and activities. Those are the areas where you can get people who may not have academic talent. Now, also when government start to spend money on works, what is happening in Nigeria today is that they're not maintaining roads. We need to start maintaining roads. If you come to my community, again, you will see part of what I'm trying to do in government are the things I've been demonstrating in my personal life for 20 years. There are roads in my community today. You can go to Ondo and ask anybody that are constructed by me, taking the youth to do it. So if you have government money, if you have government money,
I'm sorry to cut you short a bit, sir. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm trying to say now is I understand these are amazing ideas and these are wonderful points. But now, taking it to an average Nigerian youth, you said something about empowering over 3,000 Nigerian youths recently and everything. If you become our president tomorrow, like yesterday, what are the structures you are going to put in place to ensure that Nigerian youths learn the certain things they are supposed to engage Nigerian youths? They are already engaged by a lot of things on the media right now, but taking them back to their roots. About the agriculture, I understand that part, but now I'm talking about capacity building, how to put most especially our women, our ladies, our young girls growing up, how to get them involved in what this government needs to offer. Now, how to stop this Japa syndrome that is currently ravaging and taking our youth outside the country to go and do a lot of things. How do you do capacity building? That is my own.
Okay, let me tell you something clearly, so that we don't fight over words, even though we have clarity of ideas. One, the best capacity building you can do is a sound education in the proper formal school. So if you are training someone as a doctor, you train them well. The way I was trained at IFE to be a lawyer, and I went all over the world, I can do it very well. That's the first capacity building. So somebody leaves high school, they have 6 credits, O level, they actually have competencies. That's number one. Second, you can do is that there are new areas of knowledge that you can infuse into what is happening, because there are many services that, for example, in the Niger Delta area, if you are training people on underwater welding and so many other services in the oil sector, in other sector that they are importing people. Do you know that if you actually get young people trained in helicopter operation, it's not a very difficult course. I've sent young people to Egypt, to other places for helicopter training, for basic things. You can domesticate here. There is a school of maritime study in Oron, in Akwa Ibom State. You only need to vote a reasonable amount of money and bring experts from Turkey, from Philippines, and also take some of our own people and equip them. They will train them in maritime sector. So you break this into sectors. So it's not one sector. that is going to take everybody. There are, for example, many of the things we import from China, including matches, including some of them, are cottage industries. And Nigeria has agencies that government has created. There's a Directorate of Employment. There's an institute in Oshodi that are supposed to train people on basic, simple technology. So you can do all of that. So it is what you need to do to take the people out of the street and put them in a program. So if ASU is not on strike, those who are in formal school, they are covered. Those who are in polytechnics, you need to equip the polytechnics to actually work. There are technical schools, technical colleges, there are schools of agric everywhere. Even in Ibadan, where I'm calling you from now, there are so many oil palm research in all sorts of. So you need to take people there. What has been happening is that these agencies are there. I don't even need to create a new one. The problem is that monies appropriated to these agencies are outrightly stolen. If you take teacher training, for example, there's a new, for example, some aspect of our blockchain technology training is supposed to be done as an extension of teacher training for those who are good in mathematics and physics. So you can add that component and go for a 6-month course. So all over the country, teachers in normal schools can be teaching you blockchain technology, cryptocurrency as part of the normal training, just by going for extension during the school time. When you have this break, you take them, pay them allowances, they go for the training. When the school resumes, they start teaching them. So, but you have to have a government who on a daily basis, the people inside are thinking of how to take resources to all these areas devoted to the youth. Even during NYSC, I usually employ youth corps members, and I retain almost 60% of them every year. I retain them. You can go and find out, Google that, and I get. So now, imagine if I was president, I could have a 2-year NYSC where the first year is for your statutory NYSC. The second year is for us to invest back in you by giving you a training in any sector you like and giving you access to a facility or a grant that allow you to go and implement. And you can opt out of that year too. It's not compulsory. If you finish your NYSC, you want to go for other studies, bye-bye. You got a job, bye-bye. But if at the last 2 months of your training, you go for counseling and you tell the counselor that my NYSC is coming to an end, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. We'll register you on that program. Then you will now go and learn this thing over a year. And then you will see that everywhere you find youth, if you find youth on the street, you go and use sports to capture them. If you find youth by the creek, you use swimming, you use fish farming, you use shrimping. Shrimping alone that can employ more than 10 million youths, because all over the saline maritime sector in Nigeria, I've represented an Indian company that goes all over the world looking for salt water where they can grow shrimps. But
okay,
if I'm not in government,
I'm sorry, sir, Mr. Prince. Before, let me just cut you short before Auntie Adeola kicks me out. Now, this is it. As a serving lawyer, as someone who is into law, and knowing fully well that the stakeholder of laws in this country, they've actually made a lot of mistakes. What are the policies you are going to put in place to enhance rule of law in Nigeria? Because right now, Nigeria is like the brink of being a lawless country. That is why we have corruption, we have kidnapping, and all these things happening. It's because the rule of law, the people that are supposed to be holding law in Nigeria, they are the ones bending the law because they know the law more than you do. You know law more than I do. So you can actually bend the law in the will of the tyrants. And that is the problem we are facing in this country. The people that are supposed to be upholding the law, that are swearing by the law in this country, they kept bending the law to suit the politicians. And now, as a politician and a lawyer, holding those two books by your hands, what can you do to put policies in place to ensure that an average Nigerian enjoys equity, fairness, and justice at every level? Thank you.
Okay,
so I can actually opt out now.
Okay, thank you.
I'm listening.
Basically, for rule of law, just get it clear. Rule of law essentially means that the law is independent of the government of the day. So the first thing you want to do, if you want to have, it's not a government, rule of law is not a manifesto of a party or of a government. It's supposed to be a general condition of a country. So the first thing you will do, you make operation of the law independent of the government. What would that bring? That will bring equality. That is to say, if you are a minister in government and you steal money, and somebody with the Nampa steals a goat, you get the same treatment. Because the fact that you are in government does not mean the law bows down to you. That's the first thing I need to do. So I need to have my attorney general independent of my politics. And if we have not amended the constitution to separate the office of attorney general from minister of justice, which is what we ought to do, if we have not, what I will do, I will appoint an attorney general and I will appoint a minister of state for justice. And I will make sure the attorney general doesn't talk to me, he faces enforcing the law. The minister of state for justice can actually be dealing with civil service, all of that things, so that I won't have excuse to be interacting. I will have in the villa my own state house counsel. So the attorney general, if I have an issue with you, the attorney general will not be on my side. He will be on the side of the law. Secondly, you will make the judiciary to be free in terms of their funding and to see that they are independent. And as much as possible, you don't interfere with them. But the real heavy lifter in rule of law is police. You need to have an educated police force. You need to have a police force of people like you who believe in rule of law. You need to recruit people into the police force whose job and whose mission in police is not because they are unemployed, because they are poor, they can't find another job. They have to be a core of people who are well trained, who come to police to protect the community and who are independent. The same way when road safety started before under Dr. Olu Agunloye, road safety was fair, was full of professionals. They will not take bribe, they will not harass you. If your papers are correct, they'll let you go. And that kind of thing we need to start afresh. And that way you have rule of law, because the government of the day is not going to be influencing policies in favor of itself. And you will know that most of the crimes committed in the country are committed from inside the government. So if government just leaves the department of committing crime and government start to obey the law, and I have control of everybody in my government, what is happening is that if the president is sending people on errand to go and commit crime on his behalf and bring money back, or the family is involved in it, or the president is just a lily-livered person or a distracted person, you will see that the government will be running foul of the law and they will be influencing law enforcement. Then when people inside government are in the habit of not running foul of the law, because in any case, before the police catches you, the president is going to fire you anyway and hand you over. So that will create a bifurcation. People will now say, oh, government people don't commit crime. Then they can now join with law enforcement to deal with those who are outside. But in this situation we are in now, for every crime committed outside, the government is committing 10. So the government itself is not investing in rule of law, because there are ministers in government today who have cases pending in EFCC. There are many politicians today who are running to the ruling party because they want to escape from law enforcement. So it's for the president to do that. And the law, rule of law, last point I'm going to make, rule of law is not measured by how much justice the rich people get. Rule of law is measured by the amount of justice accessible to the poorest of the people. And that's what we're going to focus on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adewole. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Yeah.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Thank you so much, everybody that joined us today for this interview. It has been very engaging. Thank you so much, everybody that joined us in the studio to ask questions. Some of you had to wait for a really long time. I really, really appreciate your patience. And thank you so much to our guests. I'm trying to imagine he's been speaking for 3 hours non-stop, explaining and explaining and explaining. So.
I plan to speak for 10 hours, but I have to accommodate you.
And it's already 11 o'clock after 11 p.m. in Nigeria. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to read just one comment before I end this. And the comments, you will know why I'm reading the comments soon. This person says that this man is intelligent, calm, humble, humane, but he's unknown. I'm only hearing of him today, and he's dope. So the reason I'm reading this is just to end on the first question that I asked you. A lot of people today who are still trying to decide who to vote for, they like some of what you said today. But like I said earlier, what's happening? How come not many people know about you? So I think that may be a good thing to work on. Just personally. even though anything legal, I think, because you said that it's not time for campaign. So, but I just
I've been hanging around Adewole more and more. I think that's one of the solutions I found.
so I just thought I would read that comment for you to know
I
what
appreciate that.
first question. Awesome. All right. Once again, thank you so much for your time, and want to wish you good luck in this coming election, and really appreciate your time one more time. All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much and good night. And thanks to everyone who joined and those who watch the video. Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
Of course. Amen. God bless Nigeria. God bless everybody. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.